Chapter 508. Outside the hunting ground, a sword gleam descended, revealing two figures. It was Li Baxian and Feng Yuechun. The two of them were travel-worn, but without any delay, they finally arrived at the hunting ground in 2 days. They didn't rush in immediately, because they were both exhausted. Although they had never been to a hunting ground before, they had heard a lot about this kind of famous sudden event. They knew that at this time, there would be many people lying in ambush at the edge of the hunting ground, ambushing those who entered the hunting ground from outside to obtain hunting points. After finding a secluded place, the two of them sat down to recover. 3 hours later, the two of them stood up and exchanged glances. Everything was ready. Streaks of sharp sword light appeared and hovered around the two of them. There were more than 50 streaks of sword light. "Are you ready?" Li Baxian asked. Feng Yuechun nodded. "Let's go." Following Li Baxian's words, the sword gleams retracted and turned into a rotating sword dragon. The sword dragon wrapped around the two of them and slammed into the blood-red light screen. The sword gleams resounded as the sword dragon soared. The next moment, at the edge of the hunting ground, the cultivators who had concealed their presence saw a sword dragon charging towards them. The bright sword gleams caused the world to lose its color, and the terrifying sword intent caused their hearts to palpitate. The sword dragon flew through the air and disappeared into the distance in the blink of an eye. During this time, none of the cultivators lying in ambush at the edge tried to stop it. The one who came in was a sword cultivator. Just by looking at the sword gleams, one could tell that he wasn't someone to be trifled with. Who would try to stop him? Wouldn't it be asking for trouble if they offended a powerful person? A few experts quickly noticed that the sword cultivator who came in wasn't very strong, but it was already too late to stop him. The sword gleam had already traveled several miles. As fast as lightning. A moment later, in the wilderness, the sword dragon dissipated. The sword gleams retracted. Li Baxian and Feng Yuechun landed one after another. The two of them quickly checked their surroundings and confirmed that there was no one around. Only then did they relax. "I wonder how Junior Brother is doing." Li Baxian was worried. Saying so, he tapped the battlefield mark on the back of his hand and contacted Lu Yi. He didn't contact Lu Yi before because he didn't want him to worry. Now that he was here, naturally he had to meet up with Lu Yi first. Although his and Feng Yuechun's cultivations weren't very high, they were still very powerful. However, when the two of them joined forces, his situation was much better than Lu Yi's. It was barely enough to protect him. They were contacting each other. Feng Yuechun was completely bored, looking to the east and looking to the west. It was his first time entering the hunting ground. She was also curious about this place. In the past, she had only heard that there were many opportunities in the hunting ground. Unfortunately, he didn't have the chance to meet her. This time, he had the chance. Very soon. The hunting list in the sky like a blood-red flag attracted her attention. Feng Yuechun's beautiful eyes widened as she glanced over. He stared at the top of the hunting list in surprise, almost suspecting that he had seen it wrong. But upon closer inspection, indeed, he was right. Lu Yi's name was at the top of the list, and there were a total of 1,550 hunting points behind him. Xia Liang, who was in second place, only had over 1,000 points. "Senior brother." Feng Yuechun tugged at Li Baxian's clothes. Li Baxian was currently in contact with Lu Yi, asking for his location. Sensing the disturbance, he turned to look at Feng Yuechun. "Look at that." Feng Yuechun raised her head and pointed at the sky. Li Baxian looked in the direction of her finger. In the next moment, his pupils constricted. First place? His first reaction was that his junior brother couldn't be so amazing. The entire hunting ground was hundreds of thousands of miles wide, and there were many experts. His junior brother had only entered the Cloud River battlefield for 2 months. How could he occupy the first place and leave the second place so far behind? How many people did he have to kill to get more than 1,500 hunting points? Was there someone with the same name as his junior brother? However, the name Lu Yi wasn't a very common name. Even if there were people with the same name in this world, it wouldn't be so coincidental to be in the hunting ground. There was no such coincidence in this world. Was it really his junior brother? Li Baxian was a little dizzy. He had thought that Lu Yi would be in danger everywhere in the hunting ground, treading on thin ice. But if it was really his junior brother, then he had been completely wrong. To be able to obtain so many hunting points, it undoubtedly meant that his junior brother was invincible in the hunting ground. However, he wasn't sure if it was true or not. He had to ask, "Junior brother, is Lu Ye the number one on the hunting list, you?" On the transmission array, Lu Yi, who was sitting cross-legged, was stunned by this question. He immediately denied it. "No, how could it be me?" His previous best ranking was only in the top 10. Although he killed a 6th order law cultivator after that, after such a long time, his name should have fallen off the hunting list. Since entering the hunting ground, he had killed a total of 3 people and obtained 550 hunting points. It was impossible for this number to be in the first place. Then there is someone with the same name as you. This person is amazing. He actually has 1,500 hunting points. Li Baxin sighed. This guy who had the same name as his junior brother must be a 9th order cultivator. Otherwise, it wouldn't make sense for him to be so strong. He knew of Xia Liang as he had fought against him in the Spirit Stream battlefield. He was from the Wild Blade sect and was once a top 10 master on the Spirit Stream list. Naturally, he wouldn't be weak in the Cloud River battlefield. Furthermore, Xia Liang should also be in the Cloud River Realm 9th order right now. If this person who shared the same name as his little junior brother was able to suppress Xia Liang, then he must be even more powerful. This person was really amazing. In the cave, although Lu Yi felt that something was wrong, he didn't think too much about it. In his mind, he only had 550 hunting points, so it was impossible for him to be in the first place. However, what made him feel both moved and helpless was that his 4th senior brother actually came to find him. Obviously, he was worried about his safety. Moreover, he didn't say anything before entering the hunting ground and only told him about it. Taking out the 10 points map, he checked his position and then informed Li Baxin. "We're coming to find you. Junior brother, wait for me." After ending the communication, Li Baxin took Feng Yuechan and flew in the direction of Lu Yi. They weren't too far away from Lu Yi. Normally, if they flew on their swords, it would take less than 2 hours, but in the hunting ground, they couldn't be so ostentatious, so their speed was much slower. Along the way, inside the cave, Lu Yi waited quietly. It was a good thing that his 4th senior brother came to find him. Not to mention the two of them working together would greatly increase their strength. Even if they encountered an enemy they couldn't beat, they could escape with the help of the transmission array. However, when his 4th senior brother sent the message, he used the word "we." Looking at it, there was someone with him, and it was most likely Feng Yuechan. He didn't know how strong 4th senior brother and the others were right now. Thinking about it, they had entered the Cloudy River battlefield a few months earlier than he had, so their strength shouldn't be too weak. Moreover, the two of them had been accumulating strength in the Spirit Stream realm for over 10 years. Their foundation was extremely deep, and since ancient times, no one could compare to them. After all, since ancient times, there hadn't been anyone with their talent who stayed in the Spirit Stream stage for more than 10 years. Not to mention their talent, even if they were average talents, staying in the Spirit Stream stage for more than 10 years was not worth it. Such a long time was enough for a cultivator to reach the Cloud River stage or even the True Lake stage. After thinking about it, Lu Yi didn't stay in the same place. Instead, he walked out of the cave, found a place outside, and activated the concealment spirit pattern to hide. His 4th senior brother was rushing here. If he continued to stay in the cave, what if someone entered and discovered his whereabouts? Should he leave or not? If he left, it would delay the time to meet up with Li Baxin. If he didn't leave, he might have to fight with the person who came. It was troublesome either way, so he might as well not stay in the cave. After hiding, he remembered what his 4th senior brother asked him. He raised his head to look at the hunting list and frowned. Just as his 4th senior brother said, Lu Ye was at the top of the hunting list. There really was someone with the same name as him? This was rather interesting. He looked down and continued to investigate. Soon, Lu Yi realized that something was wrong. This was because the last person on the hunting list had 530 hunting points. According to his calculation, He should have 550 hunting points. In other words, 550 points was enough to enter the hunting list and be ranked in the 90s. But his name wasn't in the 90s. There was only one Liu Ye on the hunting list, and he was at the top. Did he calculate wrongly? He didn't get 550 hunting points? But that couldn't be right. He was only a 3rd order, but he had killed a 5th order, a 7th order, and a 6th order. The hunting points he got were 120, 250, 180, and so on, adding up to 550 points. Hunting points were directly linked to merit, so the number couldn't be wrong. Looking at the number 1 hunting points, it was 1,550 points. This number was somewhat thought-provoking. It was exactly 1,000 points more than what he had calculated. Could it be that he was at the top of the hunting list? That didn't make sense. Where did the extra 1,000 hunting points come from? Just as he was wondering, the fluctuations of a battle suddenly came from not far away. Liu Yi immediately focused his mind and listened carefully. He vaguely heard the sound of swords ringing out. Looking up, he saw a constant flash of light on the horizon, as if a powerful technique was being released. He quickly sent a message to Li Baxian, but there was no response. Liu Yi shouted. He understood and immediately flashed out of Hu Po's body, burrowed into the ground, and sneaked towards the source of the battle. Liu Yi also hurried over. 4th senior brother didn't respond, which meant he didn't have time to reply. Calculating the time, they should be nearby. Coupled with the sounds of swords ringing out and the release of techniques, it undoubtedly meant that one of the two sides fighting was Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan. A moment later, Liu Yi arrived at the scene and looked up, only to see sharp sword lights and sword qi crisscrossing the area. Several figures were fighting fiercely within a small range. 2 of them were obviously Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan. At this moment, Li Baxian was fully displaying his strength. 100 sword lights lingered around his body as flying swords flew back and forth. The terrifying murderous intent of a sword cultivator was undoubtedly displayed. Chapter 509. Li Baxian had indeed come with Feng Yuchan. At this moment, in this small battlefield, he was using his sword to kill enemies, his figure not leaving Feng Yuchan's side, protecting her from harm. Feng Yuchan, on the other hand, was constantly sending out spirit qi attacks in all directions. Their opponents were 3 people, no, 5 people. One of them had already fallen to the ground, red blood flowing from his body, his life or death unknown. Looking at his injuries, it was obviously Li Baxian's doing. Another was outside the battlefield, his body surging with spirit qi as he held an array flag in his hand, constantly waving it. This person was an array cultivator, and judging from his spirit qi fluctuations, he was a 5th order array cultivator. The 3 people fighting Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan were also 4th order or 5th order cultivators. At this moment, the expressions of these 3 were ugly, their eyes filled with horror because Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan's performance was too monstrous. They had set up an ambush and attacked with an absolute advantage in numbers, but not only did they fail to take down these 2 in the first place, one of them was even killed. If it weren't for their array cultivator companion activating the spirit array they had arranged in advance, the 3 of them would definitely not be their opponents. But even with the help of the spirit array, the 3 of them were in a difficult situation at the moment. The rainbow-like sword lights, whether it was in terms of lethality or speed, were extremely terrifying, and the spirit qi attacks were also extremely powerful. Where did these 2 monsters come from? The 3 of them had a bitter taste in their mouths, knowing that they had kicked an iron plate this time. One of the 5th order cultivators realized that things were not going well. If they continued fighting like this, not to mention how long they could last, the sound of the fight here would definitely attract others. If it were Myriad Demon Ridge, it wouldn't be a problem, they could pressure these 2 monsters together and kill them, but if it were Grand Heaven Alliance, then they would be miserable. No one dared to gamble on a 50-50 chance. They immediately shouted, "It's a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding. How about we all stop?" They were already thinking of retreating. But Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan's attacks were fierce, so they didn't want to give up. There was no chance for them to retreat. As for their companion who died, It was a temporary alliance, and he wasn't their senior brother or junior brother, so it didn't matter if he died. It could only be said that he was too unlucky. Hearing the shouts, Li Baxin frowned slightly. His attacks slowed down slightly. It wasn't that he didn't have the confidence to kill these people. However, now that he was trapped in a formation, the other party had the help of a formation cultivator. Regardless of whether it was him or Feng Yuechan, it was difficult for them to display their full strength. The two of them could only display 80% of their usual strength. But even so, with the two of them working together, even if they were trapped in the formation, they would still be able to escape. They were confident that they could kill all of them. After all, this formation wasn't a very profound formation. He and Feng Yuechan had been in the spirit stream realm for more than 10 years. Although he had wasted a lot of time, he had accumulated a lot of energy. No matter who it was, both of them had accumulated an extremely strong foundation. The other party was only an ordinary 4th or 5th order cultivator, so how could they be their opponents? But at the end of the day, this was a hunting ground. If they fought here for too long, it would be easy for side issues to arise. Right now, it was more important for them to find Lu Yi. With this in mind, Li Baxin shouted, "All right." Their attacks slowed down. The 5th order who shouted relaxed and was about to speak when suddenly a scream rang out from not far away. When the scream reached his ears, the face of the person who spoke changed drastically because he recognized that the scream was from his fellow array cultivator. From the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of a figure behind the array cultivator. A bright sword light pierced through the array cultivator's chest, flashing a cold light. "It's over!" Lu Yi rushed over and saw Li Baxin and Feng Yuechan's situation at a glance. With the enhancement of the Insight Spirit inscriptions, he also saw a formation in operation. How could he be polite? He immediately sneaked over to the formation cultivator. The other party was concentrating on urging the spirit array to suppress Li Baxin and Feng Yuechan. He was shocked by the strength of these two and was completely unaware of Lu Ye's approach. By the time Lu Yi attacked, it was already too late. The mountain coiling saber pierced through the array cultivator's chest. Blood spurted out as Lu Yi swung his saber again. The array cultivator's head flew. Almost at the same moment, Li Baxin's flying sword, which had slowed down its attack, rose again and attacked the 5th order cultivator who shouted just now. A series of clanging sounds rang out as the flying sword struck the array cultivator, causing him to stumble back. Blood spurted out from his body, and when he finally stabilized himself, a cold, murderous intent attacked him from behind. Lu Yi had already stepped into the spirit array and was rushing over. Before he even arrived, the Pan Mountain saber had already slashed out. A crescent-shaped saber light cut through the air and landed heavily on the man's back. It broke through the man's protective spiritual energy and left behind a bloody wound. A scream rang out, but it came to an abrupt end. Lu Ye's figure swept past him and pounced on the next target, his saber bringing out a spray of blood. Behind him, the 5th order cultivator's body swayed and fell to the ground. However, before Lu Yi could reach the 2nd array cultivator, the latter was struck by a lightning attraction technique. Lightning snakes slithered through the array cultivator's body, causing him to tremble and his body to be scorched black. Then, a second spell technique blasted a hole through the array cultivator's chest. On the other side, the last 4th order cultivator was also cut down by Li Baxin's flying sword. The fierce battle ended 10 breaths after Lu Ye's arrival. Li Baxin and Lu Yi looked at each other, the former's eyes filled with surprise and amazement. Lu Yi beckoned, "Follow me." Saying so, he turned around and walked back the way he came. Li Baxin and Feng Yuechan hurriedly followed. In the messy battlefield, he quickly packed up the spoils of war and escaped into the ground. On the way back to the cave, Lu Yi raised his head and glanced at the top position on the hunter list. The corner of his eyes couldn't help twitching. A moment later, under Lu Ye's guidance, Li Baxin and Feng Yuechan passed through the explosion array and arrived at the bottom of the cave. Sitting down cross-legged, Li Baxin looked around and asked in surprise, "What kind of array is this?" With his eyesight he could see that there was a spirit array here, but because he didn't cultivate the Tao of arrays, he couldn't tell what kind of spirit array it was. However, since Lu Yi dared to bring them here to hide, he obviously had something to rely on. A transmission array. A transmission array? Li Baxin and Feng Yuchan were both surprised. Although they knew that Lu Yi had good attainments in the Tao of arrays, they never expected that he could even arrange a transmission array. This was simply beyond their imagination. After all, Lu Yi was only at the Cloud River realm now. How far can it teleport? Li Baxin asked. The further a transmission array could teleport, the more valuable it was. If it could only teleport a few kilometers or a dozen kilometers, it would be useless. For a Cloud River realm cultivator, this distance could be covered very quickly. About 200 kilometers. See, Li Baxin sucked in a breath of cold air. To the side, Feng Yuchan also showed a look of shock. Although they were only at the Cloud River realm, they had cultivated for so many years, so their knowledge was not something Lu Yi could compare with. Naturally, they understood what it meant for a Cloud River realm cultivator to arrange a transmission array that could teleport 200 kilometers. Lu Yi's attainments in the Tao of arrays were definitely higher than they had imagined. Lu Yi must have arranged more than one such transmission array, otherwise he wouldn't have hidden here. With this transmission array, even if Lu Yi's cultivation was lower, as long as he didn't take the initiative to cause trouble and focused on protecting himself, he would be able to sit back and relax in the hunting ground. Li Baxin blushed with shame. He thought that Lu Yi was suffering in the hunting ground, surrounded by enemies, so he and Feng Yuchan had rushed over in a hurry. Who would have thought that their little junior brother would have such ability? This was a good thing. With a transmission array, even if he encountered an invincible master, he could escape at any time. Thinking of his cultivation, Li Baxin was surprised. Little junior brother, how did you reach the third order already? Calculating carefully, Lu Yi had only broken through to the Cloud River realm less than 2 months ago. He thought that Lu Yi hadn't even reached the second order yet, but now, Lu Yi was already in the third order. I was lucky. Not long ago, I entered a sealed world and obtained a lot of merit, so I was able to exchange it for some spirit sticks. As they spoke, Yi flew back and obediently bowed to Li Baxin and Feng Yuchan. Greetings, fourth senior brother, senior sister Feng. Li Baxin smiled and nodded. After not seeing you for so long, junior sister has become more and more beautiful. This was not flattery. After Yi broke through to the Cloud River realm with Hoopa, she really did look more beautiful than before and her body seemed to have grown a little. Yi's eyes curved into crescents after hearing this praise. Feng Yuchan pulled her to sit down and handed over the loot she had collected to Lu Yi. Lu Yi took it and began cracking the barriers on his storage bag while chatting with Li Baxin. When they were fighting the enemy just now, Lu Yi had checked his and Feng Yuchan's cultivations. Li Baxin and Feng Yuchan were now both 4th Order Cloud River Realm cultivators, a minor realm higher than him. After all, the two of them had entered the Cloud River battlefield a few months earlier than Lu Yi. Lu Yi's luck was good, but their luck wasn't bad either. During this time, both of them had their own opportunities and had broken through to the 4th Order more than a month ago. When Li Baxin asked about Blue Blood Sect, Lu Yi told him everything. Learning that the sect was developing well and its prospects were promising, Li Baxin sighed. Little junior brother has suffered a lot. The current Blue Blood Sect could be said to have been single-handedly raised by Lu Yi. When he first returned to the sect, besides the sect master and second senior sister, he was the only disciple. But now, Blue Blood Sect had at least 700 or 800 disciples, and the development of its station was even more impressive. Looking at the entire outer circle, no one could compare to it. There were all kinds of blessings in the station that even most sects in the inner circle couldn't compare to. Chapter 5:10. As they chatted, the restrictions on the storage bag were opened. There were only 5 enemies previously, but he had collected more than 20 storage bags. 5 people naturally couldn't have so many storage bags. Generally speaking, cultivators had more than one storage bag, but there wouldn't be too many. Most of them had 2 or 3, and they could store some things according to category. The 5 of them had so many storage bags. It was obvious that they had obtained the spoils of war from killing people. Now they had all benefited Lu Yi. Lu Yi picked out 10 storage bags and kept them for himself. He pushed the rest in front of Li Baxin and Feng Yuchan. Li Baxian didn't refuse. They were all brothers, so there was no need to give in. He picked up the storage bags and checked them one by one, taking out the useful things inside. It was the same for Louis. In general, there weren't many good things. They were all ordinary materials and spirit weapons. The materials could be used by oneself. Spirit weapons could be sold for merit points, or they could be brought back to the Jade Blood sect. Cloud River Realm cultivators usually used middle-grade spirit weapons, and their value was not bad. A moment later, Lu Yi suddenly took out a box that was emitting 5-colored light from a storage bag. This thing looked familiar. It was a lot box. Without hesitation, Lu Yi opened the lot box, and a blue light bloomed. Li Baxian was surprised. Junior brother's luck is really good. After entering the Cloud River battlefield for so long, he and Feng Yuechan had also obtained some lot boxes. He even had 3 lot boxes in his own storage bag. But so far, the spirit lots he had obtained from this thing were at most green. He had never seen a blue one. He had asked others, and most of them were the same. Although there was a chance of getting a golden spirit lot from the lot box, the probability was too low. Not to mention golden, even a purple one from the lot box was. It was extremely rare. 90% of the cultivators opened the lot box. They all got white or green. If they were lucky, they could get blue. Because of this, he left the lot box behind, preparing to save more. He opened it all at once to see if he could get a better spirit lot. If he wasn't lucky, he would make up for it with quantity. But he didn't expect Lu Yi to directly open a blue one. When I advanced to Cloud River, I was blessed by the heavens. Since then, my luck has been very good. Also, last time I entered a mystic realm, I obtained a mystic technique that could change the situation of the beast taming school. Someone told me, sell that item to the Tianji treasury. To be able to receive the blessings of the heavens, one's luck would increase. Then, we'll sell the secret technique together. Little junior brother has been blessed by the heavens? This was the first time Li Baxian heard of such a thing. When Lu Yi advanced to the Cloud River realm, he and Feng Yuechan were already in the Cloud River battlefield. He hadn't returned to the 9 prefectures yet, so there was no news from the outside world. It's hard to know. Yes. No wonder. Li Baxian suddenly understood. When I was young, I vaguely heard the old man mention it. After eldest senior brother was blessed by the heavens, his luck was astonishing. No matter what he did, it was as if the heavens were helping him. That's why he could rise up in such a short time and command the entire Haotian alliance. Seems like it's true. With a thought, he took out 3 boxes from his storage pouch and handed them to Lu Yi. Junior martial brother, please open them. Since he knew that Lu Ye's luck was very good, it was naturally more appropriate for Lu Yi to open the box. What if he opened a golden box? He held the 3 lot boxes in his hand. Lu Yi couldn't help but think of Xia Qianqian. A few days ago, this woman also wanted to borrow luck from him, but in the end, she only opened a white spiritual lot. In the cave, 3 pairs of eyes focused on him. Lu Yi gently opened the first lot box. White light bloomed. This made Lu Yi raise his eyebrows. Something was wrong. He had opened 4 lot boxes in total. The first time, he directly opened a purple spiritual lot, which stunned Xia Qianqian. The second time, Xia Qianqian asked him to help open it, and it was white. The third time was just now, a blue spiritual lot, and then a white one. The first time was a coincidence. Was the second time also a coincidence? Luck is like a river. It has ups and downs. It's normal. Open the second one, Li Baxian said. Lu Yi pondered for a moment and said, Senior martial brother, can you give these 2 lot boxes to me? Li Baxian smiled. What's the problem? I'll give them to you. Unfortunately, we've only saved 3 during this period of time. If we had known earlier, we would have saved the rest. As he spoke, Lu Yi had already opened the second lot box, and a green light bloomed. It was so acceptable. The third lot box was opened. Purple light bloomed, illuminating everyone's faces with purple light. Li Baxian exclaimed in a low voice, Amazing! Feng Yuechan also opened her eyes wide. She didn't expect Lu Yi to directly open a purple spiritual lot. Compared to a white one, The value instantly increased by 27 times. Hearing it was one thing, seeing it with one's own eyes was another. It seemed that it was really as Lu Yi said. After being blessed by the heavens, one's luck was astonishing. Just a month ago, Li Baxin had complained to her that if there was really someone in this world who could open a purple spiritual lot or above from a lot box, it would definitely be smoke rising from their ancestors' graves. Today, she witnessed it with her own eyes. Lu Yi pushed the green and purple spiritual lots in front of Li Baxin. Li Baxin looked at him in confusion. It should be that only by opening my own spiritual lot can my luck be used. If I open it for someone else, my luck will be useless, Lu Yi explained. This was also the reason why he had asked Li Baxin to give him the 2 lot boxes. If he didn't want to verify his guess, he wouldn't have asked Li Baxin for the 2 lot boxes. It didn't make sense that when he opened them for someone else, they would all be white, but when he opened them for himself, they would all be white or above. This action confirmed his thoughts. His own luck could only be used on himself, others couldn't borrow it from him. Looking at the 2 spiritual lots in front of him, Li Baxin shook his head. Little junior brother, I can't take these things. Lu Yi was about to explain when Li Baxin smiled and said, I understand junior brother's meaning, but something like luck can't be seen clearly or touched. If junior brother's luck really came from the heavens, then you must be even more careful. The heavens are everywhere. If we use this kind of opportunistic method to obtain a spiritual lot, it might affect your luck and weaken the heavens' favor for you. The gains don't make up for the losses. There's such a thing? Lu Yi was surprised. There's no harm in being careful. Li Baxin said solemnly. When it came to the heavens' secrets, he didn't dare act recklessly, even if there was only a slight possibility. If it were anyone else, Li Baxin would definitely not refuse. In any case, a purple spirit lot was very precious and could improve his cultivation, but Lu Yi was his little junior brother, so he couldn't harm him. Feng Yuchan also said from the side, Senior brother is right, it's best to be careful with this kind of thing. Junior brother Lu, don't let others borrow from you in the future, lest it affects your own luck. Lu Yi nodded. In that case, I'll take these spirit lots, the rest can be given to senior brother and senior sister Feng. He pushed the inventory bag that originally belonged to him over. This time, Li Baxin didn't refuse and happily took things out of the storage bags. Lu Yi checked his storage space and found a golden spirit lot, a purple one, a blue one, a green one, and 2 white ones. With so many spirit lots, Lu Yi estimated that he should be able to break through to the 4th order. He had accumulated a lot of experience in the 3rd order before, so he shouldn't be far from the 4th order. However, this was the hunting ground, so it wasn't convenient to use spirit lots to cultivate. The white ones were fine as they could be consumed in a stick of incense worth of time, but the golden ones weren't. A golden spirit lot would take at least a day and night to be consumed, and it would be awkward if someone broke in during this time. So, if he wanted to cultivate, he had to wait until the hunting ground closed and find a safe place to cultivate. Little junior brother, if that's the case, you can buy a lot box at the price of a green spirit lot. With your luck, you definitely won't lose out. Li Baxin suddenly had an idea. Feng Yuchan pursed her lips and smiled. The price of a green spirit lot is only 600 or 700 merit points. Once your cultivation reaches the Cloud River realm, do you really need 600 or 700 merit points? For a Cloud River realm cultivator, a lot box means the hope of obtaining a golden spirit lot. Instead of selling it for 600 or 700 merit points, it's better to open it yourself and take a gamble. What if the heavens bless you? Li Baxin thought for a moment and nodded. That's true. Not to mention others, even if he really obtained a lot box and someone wanted to buy it for 600 or 700 merit points, he definitely wouldn't sell it. Opening it himself was always a hope, but if he sold it to someone else, what if that person opened a good spirit lot? Wouldn't he die of heartache? Moreover, in the Cloud River realm, everyone was working hard to improve their cultivation, and spirit lots were an extremely important means of improvement. Most people would open a lot box as soon as they obtained one. Very few people would accumulate such a thing. So, there was a high probability that buying a lot box wouldn't work. Unless Lu Yi was willing to buy it at the price of a blue spirit lot, But if he really did that, no one could guarantee whether Lu Yi would make a loss or profit. It was also uncertain how much he would receive. Maybe he wouldn't be able to buy a lot even after several days. After opening all the lot boxes, all the storage bags were opened, and the materials were collected. Li Baxian found a storage bag, put some spirit pills and spirit stones inside, and threw it to Lu Yi. Without waiting for Lu Yi to refuse, Li Baxian said, "There are a lot of formation flags inside." Lu Yi didn't say anything. After inspecting it, he found that there were indeed several dozen formation flags inside, presumably the remnants of that formation cultivator. Although he had refined a batch of formation flags before, there weren't many left now. Now that he had several dozen more, it was just enough to replenish his supply. At once, he didn't refuse, and carefully put it away. "Little junior brother, what do you plan to do next?" Li Baxian asked. "Originally, I wanted to rely on the transfer formation I set up myself, and hide here until the hunting ground closed. What about now?" Li Baxian raised his eyebrows, hearing the meaning behind Lu Ye's words. Lu Yi sighed and slowly said, "There's one thing I forgot to tell senior brother. The one ranked first on the hunting list seems to be me." Chapter 511. Inside the cave, Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan stared at Lu Yi in a daze. After a long time, Li Baxian asked, "Didn't you say it was someone else?" "I also thought it was someone else because in my own calculations, I didn't have that many hunting points. The number 1 hunting points was a full 1,000 more than I calculated, but just now, after I killed 2 fifth-order cultivators, the number 1 hunting points increased by 240. Previously, 5 people had besieged Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan, and by the time Lu Yi arrived, one of them had already been killed by Li Baxian. Lu Yi had sneak attacked the 5th-order array master and then killed another 5th-order cultivator, killing 2 in a row. With his 3rd-order cultivation, killing a 5th-order cultivator 2 minor realms above him gave him 120 hunting points each. The number 1 hunting list originally had 1,550 hunting points, but after Lu Yi killed 2 5th-order cultivators, it became 1,790, an increase of 240 hunting points. Coupled with the fact that he hadn't found his name in the 90s before, Lu Yi could basically conclude that he was the one in first place. Otherwise, there would be no such coincidental increase. "The number of hunting points on the hunting list is 1,000 more than you calculated? Where did it come from?" Li Baxian was puzzled. "After thinking about it, I can only think of one possibility." Saying so, Lu Yi took out the golden spirit lot from his storage space. "It should be this thing that brought it. Every day in the hunting ground, Heaven's Secret will select one person and bestow a golden spirit lot. For 24 hours, this golden spirit lot cannot be used or stored. Only after 24 hours have passed can this spirit lot be truly possessed. I was selected by Heaven's Secret once before." Li Baxian was curious about the source of the extra 1,000 hunting points, so how could Lu Yi not be curious? After thinking about it, this was the only possibility. However, the information he purchased from Heaven's Secret Commerce Union didn't mention such a thing, so he couldn't be sure. Moreover, 1,000 hunting points was a bit too much. "Let me ask." Li Baxian did not have a good relationship with the cultivators of Pill Heart sect, but Feng Yuchan was different. Whether it was her background, appearance, figure, or talent, she was one of the best in Pill Heart sect. She had been in the Spirit Stream battlefield for more than a decade, and had seen off countless cultivators of Pill Heart sect. Now, there were many Cloud River Realm cultivators of Pill Heart sect active in the Cloud River battlefield, and many of them were in the 8th or 9th order. These people should know more about the hunting ground. Not long after, Feng Yuechan ended the transmission and said, "This kind of spirit lot bestowed by the heavens can indeed bring a cultivator hunting points. When the time limit is up, it's directly related to the cultivator's cultivation base and how long they've held it. The lower your cultivation, the longer you hold it, and the more hunting points you can earn." Lu Yi was a 3rd-order origin realm cultivator, yet he was able to maintain this state for a full 24 hours. Throughout the entire 9 provinces, no one other than him could accomplish such a feat. Disregarding everything else, the spirit lot would explode once every 6 hours, which was a total of 4 times. The location of the spirit lot was directly exposed, attracting a large number of cultivators to fight over it. How could a third-order cultivator hold onto a spirit lot in such an environment? It was precisely because of this that Lu Yi was able to earn 1,000 hunting points all of a sudden, reaching first place on the hunting list and leaving second place far behind. It had been 2 days since the hunting ground opened. Before Lu Yi, there was a golden spirit lot bestowed upon him, but that golden spirit lot had changed hands several times. In the end, it was obtained by an 8th-order cultivator who held it for just over 4 hours, earning him 300 hunting points. At that time, Lu Yi was hiding in the cave, ready to escape at any time, so he was naturally unaware of this. Wonderful! Li Baxian clapped. Lu Yi had set up many transmission arrays in advance, so if the situation went south, he could immediately escape. Therefore, the golden spirit lot bestowed by the heavens was definitely not a good thing for an ordinary third-order cultivator, but it did not affect Lu Yi much. This 1,000 hunting points was equivalent to a gift from the heavens. This time, Li Baxian had a deep understanding of Lu Ye's luck. Originally, this junior brother was all alone and only focused on protecting himself. I wanted to hide here until the hunting ground closed, but now it seems that the first place on the hunting list is not impossible to compete for. The first place on the hunting list was rewarded with a grade A spring spirit and 9 golden spirit lots. Who wouldn't be jealous? Lu Yi was also jealous. He had a grade C spirit land before, so he didn't mind losing it. In any case, a grade C spirit land didn't bring him much improvement and instead caused him some restrictions. But if it was a grade A spirit land, it would be different. Even if he didn't need it, Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan would still need it. There was also the giant armor. With such a spirit land, they could cultivate in it without having to travel outside and search for various opportunities. Even if their cultivation speed was not as fast as using spirit lots, having a grade A spirit land was the best. Moreover, in addition to the grade A spring spirit, there were also 9 golden spirit lots, which was what Lu Yi urgently needed right now. He indeed had a lot of spirit lots in his hands, but at most, they would only allow him to break through to the 4th order. He would need more spirit lots in the future. Of course, what made him want to compete for the top spot on the hunting list was the arrival of his 4th senior brother and Feng Yuechan. These two weren't ordinary Cloud River Realm cultivators. Now that they were 4th-order cultivators, while Lu Yi didn't dare say anything about their strength, fighting someone 2 minor realms above them shouldn't be a problem. If he teamed up with his 4th senior brother and Feng Yuechan to take first place on the hunting list, the 9 golden spirit lots would be divided among the 3 of them, which would be enough for him to take a big step forward in his 4th-order cultivation and save him many days of hard work. Another point was that his cultivation was indeed low. Looking at the current hunting ground, there shouldn't be many people with a lower cultivation than him, but having a low cultivation was also an advantage. The advantage of obtaining hunting points. Hunting points were directly linked to one's merit, a 1-to-1 conversion. A 5th-order Cloud River Realm enemy, if Lu Yi were to kill him, would give him different hunting points than if Li Baxian were to kill him. So, even though most of the people on the hunting list were 8th or 9th order masters, if Lu Yi killed a 5th order, they would have to kill 3 5th-order masters. If Lu Yi killed a 6th order, they would have to kill 4 6th-order masters. Only then would they be able to equalize their hunting points. It was indeed easier for 8th or 9th order masters to kill enemies, but Lu Ye's hunting points were based on the number of enemies he killed. Both sides had their own advantages. In contrast, Lu Ye's advantage was undoubtedly greater because he had the ability to kill enemies above his realm. With his current strength, ordinary 5th-order masters were nothing in front of him, and with Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan, he could even kill 6th-order masters. As for 7th-order masters, it was best not to provoke them if possible. As for 8th or 9th order masters, they were absolutely impossible to defeat. Even if the 3 of them joined forces, the gap in cultivation was simply too great. However, as long as they took the appropriate measures, even if they encountered such a master, they would have a chance to escape. After realizing that he was first on the hunting list and that 4th senior brother and Feng Yuechan had come to join him, Lu Ye's ambition had been ignited. That being said, if he really wanted to act, he still had to be careful. Little junior brother wants to compete for first place? Li Baxian raised his brow, but after thinking about it carefully, it wasn't impossible. If there was no hope at all, the key was that Lu Yi was now first on the hunting list, far ahead of the second place. He didn't dare say too much, but as long as he continued to maintain this momentum until the hunting field closed, everything would be fine. With a thought, Li Baxian nodded. Since little junior brother has such an idea, senior brother and your senior sister Feng will lend you a hand. Senior brother, senior sister Feng, help me stand guard while I refine some array flags. Although they had just obtained a few dozen array flags, if they wanted to cause trouble in the hunting field, they needed enough array flags. In any case, the cultivation of the three of them was still too low. Only with enough array flags could Lu Yi arrange spirit arrays unscrupulously, and only by relying on the power of these spirit arrays could he protect himself when he encountered danger. Arranging spirit arrays was not to kill enemies, but to leave himself a way out. In this hunting field, there were many 8th or 9th order masters, so who knew when they would run into them? There were still a lot of materials left over from the Heavenly Secret Commerce Union, enough to refine a few hundred array flags. The only troublesome thing was that when refining array flags, there would be spirit chi fluctuations, which could easily be exposed. For this reason, Lu Yi arranged a set of concealment spirit arrays so that as long as he didn't make too much noise, no one outside would be able to perceive him. Time passed by little as Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan rested and restored themselves while remaining vigilant. A large number of materials were consumed, and array flags were produced one after another. While he was refining array flags, many masters on the hunting list were fighting in all directions to obtain hunting points, especially Xia Liang, who was ranked second. He came from the first-grade sect, Wild Saber sect, and had broken through to the Cloud River realm with 360 apertures. During the Spirit Stream battlefield, he had entered the top 10 of the Spirit Stream list. Looking at the entire hunting field, his strength was one of the best. Reading when the hunting list first appeared, he was suppressed by Lu Yi. However, he soon overtook him and firmly occupied the first place. He hunted Grand Heaven Alliance cultivators everywhere. In the end, Lu Yi suddenly overtook him. Not only did he overtake him, but he also left him behind by a few hundred hunting points. This made Xia Liang very depressed. If he had only suspected that Lu Yi was the guy from the Blue Blood sect before, he was now certain. Because an increase of a whole 1,000 hunting points undoubtedly meant that Lu Ye's cultivation level was not high, which was consistent with the information he had received. However, he didn't know what method he had used to hold that special golden spirit tag for a full 24 hours. While hunting around, Yang Kai was also looking for Lu Ye's whereabouts, but unfortunately he found nothing. The hunting ground wasn't large, but it wasn't small either, so unless he had accurate information, it wouldn't be easy to find someone here. He didn't think that Lu Yi could compete with him for first place. A Cloud River tier cultivator with a low cultivation level would definitely be hiding somewhere at this moment, not daring to show himself. How could he dare to come out and compete with him? The facts proved that this was indeed the case. After a day and a night, Lu Ye's hunting points were fixed at 1,790, and he had obtained more than 1,600 hunting points. As long as he killed a few more people, he would be able to take back first place. Chapter 5:12. Inside the cave, Lu Yi had refined enough formation flags and everything was ready. Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan had also fully recovered. The three of them stood up. Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan each took out an item and stuck it on their faces. Lu Yi looked over and saw a smiling boy with red lips and white teeth pasted on Li Baxian's face. Feng Yuechan, on the other hand, had an aggrieved girl's face with tear stains on her face. Li Baxian also took out a mask and gave it to Lu Yi. "Junior brother, wear this. It'll make things easier." Lu Yi silently took out a ferocious-looking demon's mask from his storage space and put it on his face. Li Baxian was taken aback and laughed, so junior brother was already prepared. All of them were easy targets for the cultivators of the Myriad Devil Ridge. At this moment, everyone had a tacit understanding and were prepared to face each other. After exiting the cave, They concealed their auras and randomly chose a direction to go. Although they wanted to compete for the hunting list, their main goal was to protect themselves. As such, they couldn't go too far from the cave. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to escape in time if they encountered danger. As long as they weren't too far from the cave, even if they encountered an expert they couldn't defeat, they could escape with the teleportation formation if they returned to the cave. 10 to 20 li was the limit. Search. With the restriction of distance, they naturally couldn't take the initiative to attack. As such, they could only wait. As they moved forward, Lu Yi told them his thoughts. Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan both agreed. The rewards on the hunting list were tempting, but they couldn't take them without being alive to spend them. There was nothing wrong with playing it safe. Taking the initiative to attack would give them more opportunities, but it was also accompanied by greater risks. With the general idea set, the next step was convenient. After an incense stick's worth of time, Lu Yi stopped less than 20 li away from the cave. He looked around for a moment and nodded to Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan. Without saying anything, the two quickly went in different directions to be on guard. At the same time, Yi also flashed out of Hupo's body and rushed in another direction. Lu Yi was left alone. He took out formation flags one by one and began to arrange a formation. This time, the main purpose of the formation was not to kill the enemy, but to trap the enemy. In this way, if they really encountered an enemy that they could not defeat, they could use the formation to delay the enemy's pursuit. It wasn't the kind of array that could be triggered, either. Instead, it needed to be actively controlled. This way, it could ensure that the array could be activated at a critical moment. Lu Yi, who had been alerted in advance, hurriedly hid himself so that he would not be exposed. 2 hours later, several large formations were set up. Everything was ready, and the few of them waited quietly. The hunting ground had been open for more than 3 days. Now, most of the cultivators moving in the hunting ground were in groups of 3 to 5. Although the benefits obtained by doing so would be shared equally, the risk would also be reduced. Those who still acted alone were at least at the 7th order realm. Only cultivators above the 7th order realm who had enough confidence in their own strength would act as lone wolves. Time passed, and the surroundings were quiet. On the hunting list hanging high in the sky, the rankings of the masters were constantly changing. Xia Liang, who was ranked second, was catching up step by step. The gap between him and Lu Yi was getting smaller and smaller, and it seemed that he would soon surpass Lu Ye's ranking and return to the top. 2 hours passed, 4 hours passed. It was indeed not easy for them to encounter enemies by simply waiting for their prey. Although the number of cultivators in the hunting ground was not small, the hunting ground was also very big. Additionally, everyone was acting cautiously. No one would easily expose themselves. That was especially true of the ghost cultivators. They came and went without a trace. Suddenly, a glimmer of light appeared in Lu Ye's eyes. He looked up and saw a bright white light under a big tree not far from him. What was certain was that this white light had not appeared a moment ago. It had suddenly appeared. Lu Yi understood that this was an opportunity left behind by the heavens. He had encountered it before and obtained a white spirit stick from it. So this is how this kind of opportunity is born. Lu Yi now had a better understanding of the cruelty of the heavens. In the hunting ground, the heavens would choose a person every day and bestow a golden spirit stick. Every day, there would be a spirit stick descending from the sky. There were also various opportunities that would appear from time to time, and the hunting list hanging high in the sky that everyone could see. These various benefits and fortuitous encounters would cause the cultivators to fight and kill each other. The workings of the heavens were like a pair of invisible hands that pushed the cultivators to fight each other from behind the scenes, causing the blood of cultivators to spill all over the hunting grounds. Little junior brother, Li Baxian sent a message. Lu Yi replied, "I see it." He had thought that it would be difficult to encounter enemies by waiting like this, but now that there was such an opportunity here, he thought that it would not be long before someone came. It turned out that this was indeed the case. After only a cup of tea's time, 4 sneaky figures appeared in front of Lu Ye's eyes. These 4 people were extremely careful. They were in groups of 2 and sneaked over from different directions. However, they did not have the means of ghost cultivators, so they could not hide their whereabouts. At most, they could only try their best to restrain their aura to reduce the possibility of being exposed. The four of them did not approach the white light immediately. Instead, they searched from the outside to the inside bit by bit. Under such caution, ordinary means could not be hidden at all. Fortunately, Lu Yi had set up a concealment formation at Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan's location. As long as the other party's perception was not ridiculously strong, there was a high chance that they would not be discovered. As for Lu Yi himself, with the concealment spirit rune, it could be said that he was a ghost cultivator at this moment. Two of the four people walked past 3 feet in front of Lu Yi without noticing, while the other two went straight to Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan's location. "Little junior brother, I'm ready to make my move." Li Baxian sent another message. Lu Yi did not reply. There was no need to reply. As long as there were not too many of these cultivators in groups, he was not afraid. This was because only cultivators with low strength would travel in groups. If he encountered a lone wolf, he would need to be the most vigilant. A cold light suddenly bloomed. Accompanied by the sound of a sword, Li Baxian's hidden figure was exposed. More than a dozen flying swords surged around him and shot out towards one of the cultivators in an instant. This sudden turn of events gave the four people here a fright, especially the two who were heading towards Li Baxian. Their expressions changed greatly as they felt the piercing killing intent. All the hairs on their bodies stood on end. One of them immediately shouted, "Ambush!" He immediately summoned his spirit artifact and faced the sword light. When Li Baxian made his move, he did not know which faction the other party belonged to, but this did not matter. As a sword cultivator who had been in the spirit stream realm for more than a decade, he could control his flying swords freely. The moment he made his move, his figure was exposed and the other party's faction could be determined. If the other party was also from Grand Heaven Alliance, Li Baxian could naturally guarantee that he would not injure them, but if the other party was from Myriad Demon Ridge, the dozen flying swords he used to ambush them would definitely make the first move. Almost at the same time as this person shouted, the battle marks on the back of their hands burst out with blue and red light. Li Baxian was not only observing the other party's battle marks, but also their cultivation. No one would dare to be careless in such a sudden attack. They would definitely erupt with their full strength to meet the attack. This way, the other party's cultivation could be seen at a glance. When the two of them made their move, Li Baxian was relieved. A 5th order and a 4th order were nothing in his eyes. The other two people not far from Lu Yi also reacted immediately. One of them was burly and brimming with vitality. He should be a body cultivator. He immediately rushed towards Li Baxian. The other person's spirit chi surged as a spirit technique took shape in front of him. This person was a Dharma cultivator. The body cultivator had only taken a few steps when he saw a scene that shocked him. More than a dozen sword lights were blocked by his two companions, but even more sword lights continued to fly towards him. Before determining which camp the other party belonged to, Li Baxian naturally could not use his full strength. The dozen or so flying swords were just a test. After confirming that the other party was from Myriad Demon Ridge, he began to exert his strength again. This was far from his limit. When he was in the spirit stream realm, he could already control 100 flying swords. Now that he was a 4th order Cloud River realm cultivator, the number of flying swords he could control would only increase. Sword cultivators were known for their murderous nature, so under such a sneak attack, unless one's cultivation was higher than his by 2 orders, it was impossible to resist. The sword lights swept across, breaking through the spirit chi shields of the two men and piercing through their bodies, causing blood to spurt from their wounds. The Cloud River realm was a realm with a great disparity in strength. Although these two barely had the foundation of a 4th order or 5th order, Li Baxian's foundation was undoubtedly incomparable. In just a single exchange, a 4th order and a 5th order were almost killed on the spot. If it were not for Lu Yi keeping them alive, these two would have already died. The body cultivator who rushed towards Li Baxian only felt his blood run cold as he stared at the smiling boy's face, wondering where this monster had come from. He instinctively stopped, but didn't expect a bolt of lightning to strike him from the side, causing him to tremble all over. Turning his head to look, he saw that a woman had appeared at some point. This woman was wearing a pitiful child mask with tear stains on her face, forming a sharp contrast with the boy's face. There was more than one person lying in ambush here, or even more than two. The body cultivator was shocked. At the same time, the last body cultivator shouted, "Run!" The spell cultivator had just finished casting his spell, and seeing that his companion couldn't withstand a single blow, he didn't dare to stay any longer. He hurriedly threw the spell at Feng Yuechan, and the spirit energy around him surged as he prepared to fly into the sky. However, in the end he was unable to fly. His body was less than a foot off the ground when a huge force fell from the sky, accompanied by a sharp slash. The fiery red sword light split open the body cultivator's spirit chi barrier and left a huge wound on his back. The body cultivator fell heavily to the ground, his soul almost leaving his body. There was actually someone behind him. The three silhouettes quickly rushed towards the direction of the cave. Since they needed stability, they naturally couldn't stay in the same place. Although the battle just now was short, the aftermath of the battle wasn't small. If there were any powerful enemies nearby, it was very likely that they would attract people over. Although it was a little troublesome to change locations, it was safer. After the time it takes to brew a cup of tea, the three returned from the cave and sat down with their legs crossed. "Little junior brother, I've observed for a bit. The hunting points of first place have increased by 430 points. That's exactly the same as yours. First place is undoubtedly yours," said Li Baxin. Lu Yi also saw it on the way back. Of the 4 people he killed before, 3 were 5th order and 1 was 4th order, which gave him 430 hunting points. The numbers matched, so he was indeed in first place. More than 400 hunting points in one battle was quite a bountiful harvest. One had to know that Xia Liang, who was in second place, only earned 500 hunting points a day on average. This battle was not much worse than Xia Liang's harvest in a day. Originally, before this battle, Xia Liang's hunting points almost surpassed Lu Ye's, but now, Lu Yi had pulled away. Who knew what Xia Liang was thinking about this? In the Cloud River battlefield, the hunting ground had been opened many times, but there had never been a case where a 3rd order cultivator occupied first place on the hunting list. Not to mention a 3rd order cultivator, even a 7th order cultivator had never done so. Every time, the top 3 on the hunting list were either 8th order or 9th order cultivators, with 9th order cultivators occupying the top 3 most of the time. There were also masters who wanted to use the rule that low-level cultivators could obtain a large number of hunting points by killing high-level cultivators to occupy the hunting list, but it was really difficult to implement. First of all, if one wanted to use this rule to occupy the hunting list, then the cultivator's cultivation couldn't be higher than the 5th order, otherwise it would be meaningless. But even if a 9th order cultivator was carrying a 5th order cultivator, it was easy for accidents to happen. Most of the 9th order cultivators' opponents were enemy 9th order cultivators. Once they fought, it would be difficult for them to protect their companions, and it would be easy for the enemy to take advantage of them. Once an accident happened to their companions, all the hunting points they had accumulated before would be wasted. If Lu Yi hadn't met up with Li Baxin and Feng Yuechan on this trip, and because of the special golden spirit lot, he wouldn't have thought of competing for the hunting list. The safest thing for him to do was to hide in the dark and wait for the hunting ground to close. The collected trophies were gathered in front of Lu Yi, and he was responsible for opening the storage bags. Lu Yi naturally didn't have to worry about the restrictions on the bags. Soon, the storage bags were opened one by one. Lu Yi divided the storage bags into 3, taking one each with Li Baxin and Feng Yuechan. After emptying the contents of the storage bags, Yang Kai didn't gain anything good this time. He then checked the opportunity he had obtained from the white light before. Due to the urgency of the situation, he hadn't had time to examine it and had simply put it into his storage space. Taking it out at this moment, Yang Kai found that it was a spirit flower. Last time, he had obtained a white spirit lot from the white light. As expected, there were all sorts of strange opportunities scattered in the hunting ground. There were all sorts of things. Lu Yi didn't have any attainments in pharmacology, so he didn't know what this spirit flower was or what its effects were. He could only vaguely infer that its value wasn't very high. No matter what it was, when he had the opportunity to bring it back to the sect in the future, he would give it to Shui Yuan. The previous battle had started and ended quickly, so Lu Yi and the others hadn't consumed much of their strength, but for the sake of caution, the three of them didn't act again. Instead, they stayed in the cave for an hour to make sure that the battle hadn't attracted the attention of any masters before continuing to move. Just like before, the three of them walked out of the cave. This time, they walked in a different direction for more than 10 kilometers before finding a spot. Li Baxian, Feng Yuchan, and he spread out to guard while Lu Yi began to arrange the spirit array. When everything was ready, they waited for the fish to take the bait. The last time they had a harvest was the sudden appearance of the white light, which attracted a group of myriad Demon Ridge cultivators to investigate. This time, they weren't so lucky. They waited for a full day and night. Although some cultivators flew past, they were all masters above the 7th order, so Lu Yi and the others didn't dare to act rashly. It wasn't until half a day later that a group of 3 people passed by. As usual, Li Baxian took the lead to attract attention, but when Li Baxian's figure was exposed, the battlefield mark on the back of his hand didn't react at all. The sharp sword light suddenly disappeared, startling the 3 people. They hurriedly responded, but it was a false alarm. These 3 people were from Grand Heaven Alliance. They were all from the same camp, so there was naturally no need to fight to the death. Li Baxian casually explained to the 3 people, and they quickly left. Waiting like this wasn't easy to harvest, because no one knew when the fish would take the bait. Even if the fish took the bait, there was a 50% chance that it would be from Grand Heaven Alliance. Even if it was from Myriad Demon Ridge, it wasn't clear whether the other party was a man-eating shark before they fought. However, whether it was Li Baxian or Lu Yi, they didn't have the slightest impatience. Both of them were well aware that in the hunting ground, their cultivation was their biggest weakness. 3rd order and 4th order cultivations were at the bottom of the hunting ground. If they wanted to ensure their own safety, they needed to be patient and wait for the right opportunity. Half a day later, another group of 3 passed by. Li Baxian attacked again. This time, the battlefield mark on the back of his hand reacted, blooming with a blue light. On the other hand, the 3 people on the other side were glowing with a red light. After a sneak attack, one of the opponents was severely injured on the spot, and the other 2 were also injured. With Feng Yuchan's participation in the battle, the situation instantly became one-sided. Just as Lu Yi thought before, the cultivators who were traveling in groups now weren't very high in cultivation. Most of the cultivators above the 7th order were lone wolves. These 3 Myriad Demon Ridge cultivators were all 5th order cultivators. Under the premise of Li Baxian's sneak attack, how could they be a match for him and Feng Yuchan? In the fierce battle, Lu Yi hid his figure, and Yu Reed quietly crept up. A moment later, 3 corpses were lying on the ground, and the smell of blood filled the air. Lu Yi obtained 360 hunting points. Somewhere in the hunting ground, Xia Liang, who was holding a long saber, looked up at the sky. Looking at the blood-red flag on the hunting list, the corner of his eyes couldn't help but twitch. He felt that the guy named Lu Yi was playing with him. He had this feeling since Lu Yi suddenly obtained 1,000 hunting points and occupied the first place on the hunting list. For the past few days, he had been hunting everywhere, ambushing those cultivators of the Grand Heaven Alliance. Every day, he had a harvest, constantly closing the gap between him and Lu Yi. However, every time he had the hope of overtaking Lu Yi's hunting points would suddenly increase by a few hundred points, making all his efforts go down the drain. It was like this before, and it was still like this now. Originally, he was only 100 hunting points away from Lu Yi, but now it was more than 400. How hateful! What made him even angrier was that he was being targeted by a 9th order cultivator from Grand Heaven Alliance. The other party's ranking on the hunting list wasn't high, only in the top 10. It seemed that his luck wasn't very good these days. If this trend continued, he wouldn't be able to reach the top 3 of the hunting list. Therefore, the other party acted as if he would rather not compete for the hunting list than let him compete for it. He had been hiding all this time. Hiding in the dark, he was tailing him. In a head-on fight, that person wasn't his opponent, but the other party was acting in the dark and he really couldn't do anything about it. He was extremely frustrated. This song is even more exciting. 0R Dove must be added to my favorites. Chapter 5:14. As time passed, Lu Yi and the other two followed the principle of moving to a new location after each battle. Almost every day, they would gain at least 300 hunting points, and as many as 500 hunting points. Accumulating in this way, the results were extremely impressive. The ranking on the hunting list didn't change much, but it was worth mentioning that Xiao Yang, who was originally ranked second, had encountered something that caused his hunting points to increase very slowly. Now, he was about to fall out of the top 10. Right now, the person in second place was a guy named Tan Sheng. Lu Yi vaguely remembered that when the hunting list first appeared, this person's name was on it. From this, it seemed that this person was also a ninth order master. According to Li Baxian's memories, Tan Sheng was a cultivator from Myriad Demon Ridge. He came from a second-grade sect and was very strong. At the very least, when he was in the Spirit Stream realm, he was ranked in the top 10 of the Spirit Stream list. Most of the experts who were active in the Cloud River battlefield had once been on the Spirit Stream list. Li Baxian had been in the Spirit Stream realm for more than 10 years, and had seen off batch after batch of Spirit Stream realm cultivators. He was no stranger to them, and had even fought with many of them. Even the current True Lake Realm Masters had once had opponents or friends with Li Baxian. It had to be said that after staying in the Spirit Stream realm for a long time, one's network advantage was difficult for others to match. Most of the battles they encountered over the past few days were relatively easy because Li Baxian, a sword cultivator, could easily injure one or two enemies. Then, Feng Yuchan would act and Lu Yi would hide and ambush. The battle would basically be settled very quickly. They also encountered a difficult battle. One of the opponents was a 6th order weapon cultivator, but Lu Yi took action and cut off his companion. With the three of them working together, the 6th order weapon cultivator could only swallow his hatred. No matter who it was, they were all ranked first on the Spirit Stream list and had the ability to kill enemies above their realm. As long as the enemy's background wasn't particularly strong, the three of them could take them down together. After another battle, Lu Yi looked up at the sky. The hunting points behind his name had reached 3,740 points, leaving the second place Tan Sheng behind by 1,000 points. He was truly far ahead. With such a gap, even Tan Sheng would feel despair. Suddenly, his gaze was attracted by a stream of light that flew straight towards him. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of him and crashed down. Lu Ye's eyes narrowed. Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan were also on high alert. On the back of the three people's hands, a faint blue light began to bloom. On the back of the newcomer's hand, there was a dark red glow. Lu Yi and the other two felt as if they had been struck by a lightning talisman, and all of them froze in place. Lu Yi recognized the person who had come. It was the person who had fought with Xia Qianqian before. Lu Yi didn't know this person's name, only that he was a 9th order cultivator. Sure enough, if one often walked by the river, their shoes would eventually get wet. Everything had been going smoothly for the past few days, but today, a 9th order master had appeared. It was obvious that the commotion from the battle just now had attracted him here. Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan stood side by side, secretly channeling their spiritual energy. Lu Yi also had a serious expression. Since Wei Kei didn't move, they didn't dare to act rashly. Wei Kei swept his eyes around, looking at Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan, then at Lu Yi. He only saw 3 different faces, but after catching a glimpse of the amber on Lu Ye's shoulder, Wei Kei couldn't help laughing. "Found you." Yang Kai was overjoyed. He had been searching for Lu Ye's whereabouts these past few days, but unfortunately, he hadn't found anything. The hunting ground was hundreds of thousands of kilometers wide, and there were countless cultivators pouring into it. Finding a single person in this place was extremely difficult. He could only infer from the daily changes on the hunting list that Lu Yi hadn't been idle recently. After all, he was gaining a few hundred hunting points almost every day, so how could he be idle? Recently, Yang Kai had made some gains in the hunting ground. As a Ninth Order master, he naturally disdained to accompany others and instead wandered around searching for opportunities. He had also obtained a lot of opportunities, even snatching some spirit sticks, but his hunting points were not many. Currently, he was ranked less than 20 on the hunting ground. Yang Kai didn't expect to win a good ranking on the hunting list. For him, the most important thing was to find Lu Yi and kill him. Although the rewards from the hunting list were good, they were nothing compared to the rewards offered by the major sects in the Myriad Demons Ridge. Those were resources that one could enjoy for the rest of one's life. How could a mere hunting list compare to them? Yang Kai's goal from beginning to end was Lu Yi. Just now, he was just passing by and felt the aftermath of the battle here, so he came to investigate, but he didn't expect to find Lu Yi here. Although the faces worn were different, the amber was an obvious mark, and the mountain coiling saber in Lu Ye's hand was also familiar to Wei Kei, so how could he not be sure of his identity? As soon as he finished speaking, Wei Kei raised his hand and cast a spirit technique. Although this blow was just a casual one with a Ninth Order cultivation, even a casual blow was not something Lu Yi could contend with. The spirit technique had almost reached Lu Yi as soon as it was formed. Yang Kai's spirit chi surged and a thick spirit inscription appeared in front of him. At the same time, a sword rang out and a series of flying swords flew through the air, slamming into the spirit technique and weakening its power. Li Baxian could tell at a glance that Lu Yi couldn't resist this blow, so he didn't attack Wei Kei and instead prioritized saving Lu Ye's life. Not only did he take action, but Feng Yuechan also attacked. However, even with the two of them working together, they could only weaken the power of the spirit technique and couldn't completely destroy it. With a bang, spirit chi exploded and the spirit inscription in front of Lu Yi shattered, the huge impact sending him flying and crashing to the ground. Wei Kei coldly snorted and opened his other hand towards Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan, summoning a huge disk of spirit chi. The mysterious lines on this disk flowed and surged, and from this disk, a series of light blue wind blades swept towards Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan. When he attacked Lu Yi, he held back because he was afraid that Lu Yi would be smashed to pieces. After all, he still needed to exchange Lu Ye's head for the bounty. When he attacked Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan, he didn't have to worry so much and went all out. Many flying swords flew back and formed a sword barrier in front of them. Feng Yuechan also activated her spirit chi, and mist rose to form a 3-foot-tall cloud giant in front of them. The wind blades pierced through the cloud giant's body and instantly destroyed the spirit technique. Li Baxian's sword barrier couldn't withstand it and only lasted for a moment before it was broken. At the critical moment, Feng Yuechan summoned an umbrella-like spirit tool. The umbrella opened and spirit chi surged, forming a shield and blocking the wind blades. A spirit tool. Wei Kei could tell at a glance that the spirit umbrella was famous and secretly guessed Feng Yuechan's identity. After all, a Cloud River Realm cultivator who could use a spirit tool definitely had an extraordinary background. He laughed wildly in his heart. This was really a blessing from the heavens. Not only did he find Lu Yi, but he also got 2 good prey. As long as he could kill these 3 people, he wouldn't have to worry about cultivation resources in the future. Kill Lu Yi first. As this thought flashed through his mind, Wei Kei ignored Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan and rushed toward Lu Yi. As a spirit cultivator, he should be able to kill enemies from a distance. However, his cultivation level was a full 6 levels higher than Lu Yi's, and Lu Yi was very important, so he didn't dare to take the risk. If a spell really smashed Lu Yi to pieces, then there would be no witnesses, and he wouldn't be able to claim the reward. To be safe, it was better to kill at close range. However, he had only run a few dozen feet when he saw Lu Yi, who had fallen to the ground, jump up. At the same time, a spell flag appeared in his hand and he waved it. There was a buzzing sound, and a layer of light suddenly appeared, instantly turning into a shield. It was like a large inverted bowl, covering a radius of several dozen feet. Wei Kei was caught off guard and was firmly covered. A spell formation. Wei Kei thought to himself. A spell formation had been set up here in advance. Looking at the appearance of this spell formation, it seemed to be a trap. He couldn't let Lu Yi escape. With a thought, Wei Kei raised his hand and sent a golden arc towards Lu Yi's position. However, Luya had already turned around and rushed out the moment he activated the spirit array. Holding the array flag, he rushed out of the light barrier without any hindrance. The golden arc that was chasing him hit the light barrier, but it was blocked by the light barrier, only causing ripples. This trap array was very similar to a protection array, but also very different. If a cultivator was inside a protection array, the light barrier would block attacks from the outside. But if a cultivator was inside a trap array, the light barrier would not block attacks from the outside, but attacks from the inside. In short, the protection array defended outside, while the trap array defended inside. The two spirit arrays looked the same on the surface, but their effects were completely opposite. If one wanted to escape, they would have to break the array. But Luya, as the person who set up the array flag, was naturally not limited by it. This was also why he dared to compete for the hunting list as a third-order cultivator. With the cooperation of Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan, ordinary Cloud River Realm cultivators were no match for them. Even if they encountered an invincible master, as long as they could activate the trap array here, they could delay the enemy for a while. And the three of them could take advantage of this opportunity to escape. The moment the trap array appeared, Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan had already taken to the air and fled into the distance. Luya's movements were a little slower, but not by much. He followed closely behind the two, forming a pair of wings and activating wind travel. His speed was even faster than Li Baxian's, and he soon caught up. Wei Ke was dumbfounded as he watched Luya flee. He felt his heart bleeding. He was so close to killing Luya and enjoying a lifetime of wealth. Spirit Chi surged as a series of fierce spirit techniques blasted towards the light barrier, causing ripples to appear on the trap array's light barrier, and its light quickly dimmed. Such a big movement naturally could not escape the perception of Luya and the others, and they fled even faster. Although the trap array was effective, it certainly could not completely trap a ninth-order cultivator. At most, it could only delay them for a while. As for how long it could trap them, that would depend on Wei Ke's methods. Chapter 5:15. Inside the entrapment array, powerful secret techniques were constantly being unleashed, causing the surrounding world energy to become chaotic and the light curtain to dim at a speed visible to the naked eye. Although Lu Yi had used 8 array bases and several array flags to arrange this entrapment array, because it hadn't been laid out for a long time and was only powered by spirit stones, its strength wasn't very high. The strength of a formation was related to the amount of spiritual energy stored in the formation, as well as the concentration of heaven and earth spiritual energy in the area where the formation was set up. The more spiritual energy stored in the formation, the more concentrated the heaven and earth spiritual energy would be, and the stronger the formation would be. Therefore, such an entrapment array was at its weakest when it was first arranged because it didn't have enough world energy to store. Even with spirit stones, it wouldn't last long. But as time passed, the world energy stored in the spirit array would increase and its power would grow until it reached a certain peak. The biggest advantage of the spirit array that trapped Wei Ke was its small coverage area, only a few dozen meters in diameter, which in turn increased the strength of the spirit array. However, it still couldn't stop a mere Cloud River Realm 9th Order cultivator. In less than 20 breaths of time, the light curtain of the entrapment array completely dimmed and shattered. Wei Ke shot up into the sky and chased after the direction Lu Yi and the others had fled. This was a rare opportunity, so how could he let Lu Yi escape? This time, he had been lucky enough to encounter Lu Yi, but would he be so lucky next time? Facing a few 3rd or 4th order cultivators, even if he let them escape 20 breaths ahead of him, Wei Ke was confident he could catch up. Looking from afar, a few streams of light entered Wei Ke's eyes. They were escaping quickly. Wei Ke activated the spiritual energy in his body and turned into a rainbow light, chasing after them. Lu Yi, who was running ahead, sensed something and turned his head to look back, only to see Wei Ke transform into a streak of light and know he had escaped. Just as he had expected, the entrapment array he arranged could only trap a 9th order cultivator for 20 breaths of time at most. That was enough. At this moment, the three of them didn't care about anything else and used all their strength to cross the 10-kilometer distance. Diving down, They rushed straight to the bottom of the cave and began pushing their spirit chi to activate the transmission array. The complex patterns of the array under their feet lit up, and the void spirit patterns in the center of the array bloomed with light. Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan watched curiously. Although they often used the Tianji pillar to teleport, this was the first time they used a teleportation array. They were curious about the difference between the two. Only the experienced Hooper raised its two front paws and hugged Lu Ye's neck, its amber eyes showing a hint of throbbing. The instant the teleportation array activated, Lu Yi unsheathed his saber, and a crescent-shaped saber light slashed out, blasting the location of the explosion array. Flames lit up, and a loud sound rang out. The cave shook and rocks fell down. When everything returned to normal, the place was already in a mess. 10 breaths later, Wei Kei rushed into the cave in a hurry. Looking around, there was no trace of Lu Yi and the others. A large number of collapsed stones were scattered around here. Not to mention a human figure, not even a ghost's shadow could be seen. Where is he? Wei Kei's face was filled with suspicion. When he was in the air just now, he clearly saw Lu Yi and the others escape into this place. Then there was a loud sound, and the people who escaped and disappeared. He didn't believe it and searched all the way to the bottom of the cave. There was no way out, but he still couldn't find any clues. 3 living people had mysteriously disappeared just like that. Wei Kei quickly walked out of the cave, looked around for a moment, and then chased in a certain direction. He wondered if he had seen wrongly. Otherwise, there was no way 3 living people could disappear into thin air. Those 3 people must be somewhere not far away. He had to find them no matter what. At the same time, 200 miles away, in a cave more than 100 feet underground, the hidden teleportation array lit up. The space distorted, and 3 figures appeared out of thin air. As soon as they appeared, Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan staggered and almost fell to the ground. Their faces were very serious and faintly pale. They hadn't been injured in the battle with Wei Kei before. The reason for this was that during the teleportation, the feeling of stepping on air and falling into a bottomless abyss was too real. The key was that during the teleportation, the 2 didn't dare to use their spirit energy carelessly. This caused them to feel very insecure. Moreover, the time of the teleportation seemed to be extremely vague. One thing was certain, the teleportation must have been completed in an instant, but in their perception, it seemed like a long time had passed. No wonder Hoopa hugged Lu Ye's neck before the teleportation. This was because he had been teleported many times and had the experience to deal with it. Before the 2 could recover, in the darkness, 3 light blue lights shone from the back of the 3 people's hands, illuminating the entire underground with a faint blue light. At this moment, the 3 figures on the teleportation array were on high alert. A reaction from the battlefield mark meant that there was someone here, and it was a cultivator from the Myriad Demon Ridge. Under their powerful perception, they indeed sensed an aura not far away. About 100 feet away from Lu Yi and the others, He Bing was sitting cross-legged, silently recovering. 2 hours ago, he found this place and confirmed that there was no one here, so he adjusted his breathing and recuperated. In the hunting ground, he had no companions. As a 7th-order cultivator, his situation was actually a bit awkward because his cultivation wasn't enough for him to compete for the hunting list. Even if he was on the list, his ranking wouldn't be too high, and the rewards wouldn't be too good. Since he couldn't make it to the hunting list, he wouldn't force it. So, recently, his goal had always been the heaven-bestowed spirit lot and various scattered opportunities. If he was lucky, he could even kill some cultivators from Grand Heaven Alliance. In short, his harvest was quite good. He had also encountered some masters that he couldn't defeat, but with his cultivation reaching the 7th order, even if he couldn't defeat 8th or 9th order cultivators, it wouldn't be easy for others to kill him. In other words, he had the ability to protect himself, so he dared to act alone. However, just now, a light lit up in the dark cave, and a spirit array suddenly appeared. Then, an incomprehensible scene appeared. 3 figures appeared on the spirit array. He Bing stared with wide eyes. For a moment, he couldn't understand how these 3 people appeared here out of thin air. Soon, he seemed to have thought of something and raised his brow. If he wasn't mistaken, these 3 people should have used the transmission array, which was the one that lit up the spirit array before. A Cloud River Realm cultivator can set up a transmission array. He Bing couldn't help but become interested and slowly stood up. On the transmission array, Lu Yi secretly cursed when he saw He Bing alone. It was obviously not a good thing to meet a guy who was traveling alone at this time. Although he couldn't figure out the depth of the other party's cultivation, there was a high probability that it was above the 7th order. He happened to run into a Myriad Demon Ridge cultivator when he was escaping through the transmission array. He didn't expect to run into him again this time. This was understandable. If he could find this kind of hidden cave, others could naturally find it too. Looking at the other party's posture, it was obvious that he was resting here. Lu Yi didn't know how long he had been here. Last time, they were lucky. The other party wasn't too strong, so he and he worked together to kill him. However, the situation this time was unknown. Lu Yi didn't dare to gamble. If the other party was an 8th or 9th order cultivator, the three of them wouldn't be his opponent. So, the moment He Bing stood up, Lu Yi activated the transmission array again and prepared to escape. Every teleportation formation that he set up was connected to at least 2 other teleportation formations. The teleportation formation that came here had been destroyed, but there was at least 1 other teleportation formation that was connected to the one under his feet. As long as it was successfully activated, he would be able to go to another place. However, in the next moment, his heart sank. He couldn't perceive the existence of any other transmission points. This was truly a case of when it rains, it pours, and when the boat is late, it encounters a headwind. They were blocked here by an enemy who was suspected to be above the 7th order, and the transmission array couldn't be used. Without a transmission point, it undoubtedly meant that the other transmission arrays connected to the one under his feet had been destroyed. Now, they couldn't escape even if they wanted to. Lu Yi couldn't figure out why his luck was suddenly so bad. It had been quite good before. The situation was unprecedentedly bad. If they fought in this place, not to mention whether they could win, just the aftermath of the battle would be enough to collapse the underground cave and bury everyone inside. Lu Yi raised his hand and touched Amber. Li Ba Xian flashed out and stood in front of Lu Yi, saying, "Fellow Taoist, this place is too narrow and inconvenient for conflict. What does fellow Taoist think?" Under his mask, Li Ba Xian's expression was one of helplessness. He had just escaped the tiger's mouth only to fall into the wolf's den. Although he didn't know about the transmission array, he knew that such a place really wasn't a good place to fight. Moreover, his judgment was the same as Lu Ye's. Since the other party dared to come here alone, his strength couldn't be weak. If they really fought, the three of them might not be his opponent. First, they had to stabilize the other party and escape from here. Hearing Li Ba Xian's words, He Bing raised his hand, grabbed a long spear, and stabbed it into the ground. Pushing his spirit chi, he grinned. "Do you think the few of you can threaten me?" As his spirit chi surged, He Bing's 7th order cultivation was revealed. This made Lu Ye's trio breathe a sigh of relief, but also feel helpless. They breathed a sigh of relief because the other party was only a 7th order, not an 8th or 9th order, so the situation wasn't so desperate. If the other party was really an 8th or 9th order cultivator, the three of them would have to consider whether or not to perish together with him. They were also helpless because the other party was a 7th order cultivator. Before, when the three of them joined forces, they did manage to kill a 6th order cultivator, but facing a 7th order cultivator, no matter who it was, they didn't have the confidence to do so. Most importantly, Wei Kei was definitely looking for them at this moment. A distance of 200 kilometers was nothing to a Cloud River 9th order cultivator, so if they fought here, even if the cave didn't collapse, there was still a risk of Wei Kei or other enemies discovering them. "You overestimate yourselves." Lu Ye's trio didn't speak, but He Bing became even more rampant, coldly snorting. "Sneaking around like this, it's obvious you're up to no good. Take off your masks." Chapter 5:16. In the Cloud River battlefield, there were actually many people who wore masks. These things weren't expensive and came in many different styles. In places where it was inconvenient to show one's true face, wearing a mask could hide one's identity to a certain extent. He Bing didn't know what was wrong with him, but he obviously didn't like masks. Now that he was so strong, he wanted to use his power to suppress others. "I'll count to 3 and take off your masks." Yibing's voice was as cold as ice. If it weren't for the geographical inconvenience, he would have already killed the moment he confirmed the other party's camp. The 3 of them were traveling together, so it was obvious that their cultivations weren't too high. Yibing had killed a few cultivators like this over the past few days, but none of them were good enough to fight. 1, 2. A light sigh came out as Li Baxin raised his hand and touched his mask. Back in the Spirit Stream battlefield, he was a character who could call the wind and summon the rain. Who wouldn't be afraid of Li Baxin from Pillheart Sect? But since entering the Cloud River battlefield, he once again experienced the helplessness of a weak person. Just as Li Baxin was about to take off his mask, Lu Yi suddenly appeared behind him and raised his saber. A crescent-shaped saber light slashed forward. "How dare you! Search!" Yibing shouted angrily as he raised the spear in his hand. With a light flick, the crescent-shaped saber light was shattered. Yibing was furious. In this situation, he didn't take the initiative to make a move, but these sneaky people actually made a move. They really didn't take him seriously. The person who attacked was already rushing towards him. The spirit energy fluctuations on his body showed that he was a weak third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator. Yibing grinned. A third-order Cloud River Realm cultivator. Yibing didn't know if he had eaten a bear's heart or a leopard's gall. Such a guy could be killed with a single strike. At that moment, a weak spirit energy fluctuation suddenly appeared behind him. There was someone behind him. Yibing was shocked. However, all his attention was attracted by Lu Yi. By the time he reacted, it was already too late. It was as if something was covering his head. His vision blurred, and when he came back to his senses, he was already in a stone forest. Yibing's expression was one of bewilderment. Clearly, he did not understand what had happened to him and why he had come to such a place from the underground cavern. In the cave, Yi appeared where Yibing had been standing. She opened the 9-front formation in her hand, and the picture showed a stone forest. There was also a small figure in the picture, holding a long spear and looking around vigilantly. From the silhouette of the figure, it looked very similar to Yibing. Being blocked here by a 7th-order master, their transmission array was unable to connect to any other transmission points, leaving them with no choice but to fight. Lu Yi knew this clearly in his heart, as did Li Baxin and Feng Yuechan. The other party hadn't taken action immediately because they didn't know their specific cultivations. If they knew that the 3 of them were all 3rd or 4th-order cultivators, they would have immediately attacked without wasting so much time talking nonsense. Since this was an unavoidable battle, they naturally had to make early preparations. When Li Baxin stepped in front of Lu Yi, he raised his hand and touched Amber. Although he didn't say anything, he and Yi had known each other for a long time. Yi had escaped at that time. She quietly lurked behind Yibing. What happened next was simple. Lu Yi took action to divert Yibing's attention while Yi launched an attack and summoned the 9-front formation to absorb him into it. The 9-spirit array diagram was a spirit artifact grade treasure, a grade higher than artifacts. As Yi's cultivation increased, the power she could display also increased. Under the premise that the other party was not on guard, it was still possible for her to contain a 7th-order cultivator. They absolutely could not fight in this underground cavern. Firstly, it was to prevent the cavern from collapsing. If that happened, they would all be wiped out. Secondly, they were afraid that the sounds of fighting would spread out and attract Wei Kei or other myriad Devil Ridge experts. There was no need to worry about fighting in the 9-front formation, provided that Yi could hold on. After Yibing was absorbed into the 9-front formation, Lu Yi rushed forward. Although Li Baxin and Feng Yuechan didn't understand what was going on, they reacted extremely quickly and immediately followed Lu Ye's pace. Yi shook the 9-front formation to meet the 3. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The 3 of them entered the diagram, and 3 more figures appeared on the diagram. In the stone forest, Lu Ye's trio appeared one after another and surrounded Yibing in a triangular formation. At this moment, Yibing also reacted and called out in surprise, "An array diagram?" At his level of cultivation, he still had some experience and insight. His previous encounter and the current environment all showed that he had been absorbed into an array diagram. There weren't 3 enemies, but 4. There was also one who had been hiding in the dark and should be the one controlling the array diagram at this moment. He Bing's heart was filled with awe and excitement. This array diagram was a good thing. He didn't know where these 3 people came from. Their cultivations weren't high, but they actually had such a rare treasure on them. If he could kill them, this treasure would be his. With this thought in mind, he no longer hesitated and rushed in Lu Ye's direction. The reason why he chose Lu Ye was naturally because Lu Ye had exposed his cultivation before. A 3rd-order cultivator, a full 4 order lower than him, Yang Kai was confident he could kill him with a single strike. Yang Kai's speed was extremely fast, crossing a distance of several dozen meters in just 2 steps, arriving in front of Lu Ye in the blink of an eye and thrusting his spear. This simple spear strike gave Lu Ye a great sense of danger. His skin tightened and stung. He unsheathed his Panshan saber and channeled his spiritual energy into the long saber. He lifted it up and slashed at his opponent's long spear. The moment the saber and spear collided, Lu Ye's eyes narrowed slightly because the opponent's spear was so powerful that his saber strike felt like it had hit a boulder. The spear that was originally aimed at his chest was only lifted an inch. This was the pressure brought about by a 7th-order cultivator, and it was obvious his opponent wasn't using his full strength. In the spirit stream realm, the 4th order and 7th order were 2 watersheds. Once crossed, one's strength would increase greatly. Wasn't it the same for the Cloud River realm? Therefore, in this hunting ground, only cultivators above the 7th order had the capital to travel alone. Of course, nothing was absolute. Every cultivator had different personalities, and there were some bold 6th-order cultivators who didn't want to travel with others, such as the Dharma cultivator Lu Yi and had killed before. A small spirit inscription appeared in front of Lu Yi, and at the same time, he leaned back with all his strength. The spear pierced through, and the spirit inscription shattered, causing Lu Yi to feel a burning pain in his neck. Before he could get up, the opponent's spear struck him like a long stick. With a bang, Lu Yi was smashed to the ground, feeling numb from his shoulder to his lower abdomen. He Bing's eyes flashed with surprise. Obviously, he hadn't expected a 3rd-order origin realm cultivator to be able to resist his spear, but that was it. Lu Yi was slammed to the ground by He Bing, his spirit chi surging and unable to move for a while. He was about to withdraw his spear and stab again when the sound of swords rang out, and a fierce murderous intent attacked from behind. A sword cultivator! He Bing immediately judged. Even if he was sure that the cultivation of these 3 myriad demon ridge cultivators was lower than his, he didn't dare to ignore the murderous intent of a sword cultivator. He hurriedly turned around, and a large number of flying swords entered his vision. He immediately shook his spear, and a flower bloomed. A series of clinking sounds rang out, accompanied by flashes of sparks, and the flying swords were all blocked. Among the flying swords, there was also a large number of spells. At this moment, the flying swords and spells were perfectly integrated together. It was truly a scene of you sing and I sing, and it was very lively. Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan had cultivated together since childhood, and were true childhood sweethearts. For Li Baxian, Feng Yuechan was even willing to stay in the spirit stream realm for more than 10 years. The bond between the 2 of them was much deeper than that between Lu Yi and Zi. Their cooperation was naturally flawless, as if they were made by heaven. He Bing's expression became dignified, because something was not right. The sword cultivator and the spirit cultivator were a 4th-order realm higher than the weapon cultivator, but these 3, no matter who they were, all had deep foundations that far exceeded their cultivations. These 3 people were definitely the most elite disciples from the top sects. In addition to being vigilant, there was also a trace of excitement. His background wasn't very good, coming from a 4th-grade sect. Although he had broken through to the Cloud River realm with 360 apertures, he was still far from being a true genius. He hadn't even been able to enter the Spirit Stream list. If everyone here was at the Spirit Stream realm, no matter who these 3 were, he would need to look up to and worship them, but right now, he could fight 1 against 3 just because of the difference in cultivation. So what if his background was good? So what if his talent was good? In the face of an absolute gap in cultivation, he would still die. For some reason, he suddenly felt that this sword cultivator and spirit cultivator were somewhat familiar, as if he had seen them somewhere before. While Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan were entangled with He Bing, Lu Yi hurriedly got up and opened up some distance between himself and He Bing, raising his hand and wiping it across his neck. He was secretly horrified. If he hadn't reacted quickly just now, his neck would have been blown apart by the enemy's spear. Fighting a 7th order with a 3rd order cultivation was too risky. Any mistake could lead to eternal damnation. Go! He Bing suddenly shouted, and several streams of Imperial artifact appeared out of thin air, breaking through the obstruction of the flying swords and spirit techniques to attack Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan. How could Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan dare to face the Imperial artifact of a 7th order weapon cultivator head-on? The umbrella-like artifact was summoned and opened up in front of the two. A series of popping sounds rang out as the surface of the umbrella flashed wildly, forcing Feng Yuchan to take a step back. After blocking all the Imperial artifacts with great difficulty, He Bing broke through the blockade of flying swords and arrived in front of them. Li Baxian flicked the long sword in his hand, and the numerous flying swords around him transformed into a sword dragon to meet He Bing. When the two figures collided, the sword dragon collapsed and Li Baxian's body was sent flying like a ragged sack. Chapter 517. He Bing was not going to let him go. He chased after him, and the spear in his hand stabbed toward Li Baxian like a dragon, determined to kill him. Feng Yuechan's spiritual power surged, and a large amount of fog suddenly appeared, causing the surrounding temperature to drop sharply. He Bing was caught off guard and crashed into the cold air. The cold air condensed into ice, and ice crystals spread, threatening to freeze He Bing's entire body. If they were at the same cultivation level, they definitely wouldn't be able to escape from this technique. However, He Bing's cultivation level was a full 3 levels higher than Feng Yuechan's. When he sensed that something was wrong, his body trembled, and under the surge of spiritual power, the ice crystals covering his body shattered. He turned his head to look at Feng Yuechan, who was not far away. With a slight thought, several Imperial equipment blasted out, hitting the spirit umbrella artifact. The huge impact sent Feng Yuechan flying, and she fell to the ground in a sorry state. "You like to save people, huh?" He Bing gritted his teeth and rushed toward Feng Yuechan. At this moment, Li Baxian rushed over with sword light. At the same time, Lu Yi also attacked from behind He Bing with a long saber in his hand. A fiery red saber light flashed, and he slashed down with Li Baxian, attacking from the front and back. However, even though the two of them cooperated seamlessly, the huge gap between their cultivation levels was difficult to close. After only 3 breaths of time, the two of them were sent flying, and blood spurted out of their bodies. Feng Yuechan's spell attacked again, hindering He Bing. In the underground cave, he held the 9-front formation with both hands, desperately pouring spiritual power into it. She watched as the figures in the formation moved around and fought fiercely, and she was secretly anxious. She was now at Cloud River Tier A, much stronger than before. Logically speaking, she could slightly activate the 9-front formation's power and provide some help to Lu Yi and the others. However, at this moment she was powerless to do so. This was because the 4 people fighting inside the 9-front formation were all cultivators of the Cloud River tier. The intense battle caused the formation to fluctuate. She had to use all her strength to maintain the operation of the 9-front formation. If she could not maintain the operation of the 9-front formation, then He Bing would have a chance to escape. Thus, she didn't dare to act rashly, and could only maintain the 9-front formation's operation like this. In the stone forest, Lu Yi and Li Baxian attacked He Bing again and again, but each time, they were sent flying. Each time, they cut a sorry figure. Compared to them, Feng Yuechan's situation was undoubtedly much better, but she didn't dare to be careless in the slightest. She almost didn't stop releasing the spells in her hands, because if she paused in the slightest, either Lu Yi or Li Baxian might die. Ever since they started cultivating, whether it was Lu Yi, Li Baxian, or Feng Yuechan, they had never experienced such a dangerous battle. It was like walking on a tightrope above a bottomless cliff. The slightest mistake could lead to eternal damnation. He Bing's disdainful expression slowly disappeared. The development of the battle was beyond his expectations. After determining the cultivation of the three opponents, he thought that it would be a one-sided slaughter, but the performance of the three opponents surprised him greatly. From the looks of the situation, even if the three of them worked together, they would not be his match. Although he was alone, he still had the upper hand with his powerful cultivation. However, in reality, it was difficult for him to kill any one of the three. Every time he wanted to kill one of them, the other two would desperately try to stop him, especially the sword cultivator. His flying sword shuttled back and forth, exuding an astonishing murderous aura. Several times, Yang Kai wanted to seriously injure the sword cultivator and kill him, but in the end, he was still unwilling and could only continue to fight like this while slowly looking for an opportunity. In the middle of a hunting ground, if one was seriously injured, then the only thing left to do was to recuperate. The injuries of the weapon cultivator and sword cultivator were getting worse and worse, so the situation was undoubtedly in his favor. Sooner or later, one of these two would fall, and the remaining two would be nothing to fear. If someone had told him before today that a few third or fourth order cultivators could fight him in such a heated battle, he would definitely have scoffed at them. But at this moment he was experiencing such a thing. Unimaginable. These three people were definitely not unknown, especially the sword cultivator and the Dharma cultivator. The more they fought, the more Yang Kai felt a strange sense of familiarity. After another round of fierce confrontation, Li Baxian and Lu Yi were repelled one after another. While in mid-air, Li Baxian's childlike mask was shattered and a dark red spot appeared on his forehead. If he hadn't retreated quickly just now, it wouldn't have been as simple as a dark red spot appearing on his forehead. His head would have been pierced by the sword cultivator's spear. Fortunately, Lu Ye's saber had struck his opponent's spear at the critical moment, creating an opportunity for Yang Kai to escape. The shattered mask fell, revealing Li Baxian's determined face. Although he couldn't see any hope of winning this battle, in this situation, he could only fight to the death. He Bing swept out his spear and shattered Feng Yuchan's attack. Looking at Li Baxian's face, he was slightly startled before revealing a look of surprise. "You're Li Baxian." No wonder this sword cultivator gave him a familiar feeling. It turned out to be this guy. Both of them had advanced from the Spirit Stream realm and had participated in the Spirit Stream battlefield, so how could He Bing not know of Li Baxian's great name? He was a monster who had dominated the top 10 of the Spirit Stream rankings with his Heaven 8 cultivation. He was a powerhouse that He Bing had once looked up to. He had heard that Li Baxian was unable to advance to the Heaven 9 because his spiritual cavities had shattered, but he didn't know when he had actually come to the Cloud River battlefield. No wonder he had such a powerful background. Since he was Li Baxian, everything made sense. "You're Feng Yuchan?" He Bing looked to the side. After confirming Li Baxian's identity, it wasn't difficult to guess Feng Yuchan's identity. The two of them had always been inseparable, and their identities as Dharma cultivators corresponded. He then looked at Lu Yi. "And who are you?" It was understandable that Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan had such a powerful background. After all, the accumulation of over 10 years in the Spirit Stream realm was no joke. Who was this guy with the green face and fangs? This person's cultivation was one level lower than Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan's, but the strength he displayed was not inferior to theirs. Where did this monster come from? Facing He Bing's question, Lu Yi had no intention of answering. Taking advantage of the fact that He Bing hadn't made a move, he hurriedly recovered. His body was covered in blood. Although the wounds weren't serious, they were numerous. Even his right hand that held the blade had split open, and blood had dyed the blade's hilt red. "Forget it." He Bing didn't get a response, but he didn't care. He grinned and said, "I didn't expect that the famous Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan would actually die in my hands. It's true that the Wheel of Fortune turns 30 years in the east and 30 years in the west." He spoke with a tone that said he was certain of the three of them. As soon as he finished speaking, he took a step forward and instantly appeared in front of Li Baxian. His spear was like a dragon as it stabbed towards Li Baxian's face. Among the three of them, Li Baxian, a sword cultivator, posed the greatest threat to him, so he naturally had to kill him first. At the same time, Lu Yi also pounced towards him, while Feng Yuchan raised her hand and blasted out a technique. The flying swords swept out, but they couldn't stop the spear in the slightest. The flying swords were sent flying by the ferocious surging spirit qi as the spear arrived in front of Li Baxian in an instant. Facing this attack, Li Baxian didn't have the slightest intention of dodging. He held his sword vertically in front of him and took the initiative to meet it head-on. Sword qi swept out and spear light flashed like thunder. The two figures brushed past each other. Li Baxian directly half-knelt a few dozen meters away, his hand touching his abdomen, red blood flowing through the gaps between his fingers. A bloody wound also appeared on He Bing's cheek. The pain caused him to fly into a rage. He had actually been injured by a fourth-order cultivator. Feng Yuchan's technique arrived, but He Bing swept out with his spear and shattered it. He immediately turned around and charged towards Li Baxian again, his murderous intent sharp. As soon as he took a step forward, Lu Yi stabbed out horizontally, the coiling mountain saber slashing down with a flash of saber light. Scram! He Bing shouted angrily and raised his spear to meet the attack, but as soon as they collided he noticed that something was wrong. This third-order weapon cultivator's attack was faster and more powerful than before. Asterisk ding ding dang dang asterisk after a few crisp sounds, Lu Yi was sent flying and landed beside Li Baxian, his saber-wielding right arm trembling uncontrollably. He Bing's expression was one of shock and doubt. When he fought with Lu Yi before, he could basically beat him back with a single blow, but just now, the other party had actually blocked several of his spear strikes. The other party's strength seemed to have suddenly improved greatly, which was obviously not normal. Looking up, he saw that Lu Ye's spirit energy and blood were surging violently. The fiery red spirit energy and the dark red blood energy were mixing together, and his aura was flourishing. Not only that, Hu Pe, who had been crouching on his shoulder, was also mixing with Lu Ye's blood energy, causing Lu Ye's entire body to be wrapped in a dark red halo. What kind of secret technique is this? What He Bing couldn't see was that on Lu Ye's chest, the blood-stained spirit inscription was still playing a role. Lu Yi rarely used this blood-stained spirit inscription because so far, the enemies he had encountered had rarely been able to force him into a bitter fight. Either his opponent couldn't withstand a single blow, or he himself couldn't withstand a single blow. Blood-stained spirit inscriptions, which required time to accumulate and slowly display their effects, were naturally difficult to use. But this time was different. Facing a seventh-order cultivator, if they weren't his opponent, it wouldn't be a big deal, but now that the three of them were working together, they were barely able to keep their lives, so the blood-stained spirit inscription could play a role. Almost at the very beginning of the battle, Lu Yi had constructed this spirit inscription on his chest. As his body continued to be injured and his blood flowed, the accumulation of blood-stained spirit inscription finally caused a qualitative change in his strength. Although he was still a third-order cultivator, the strength he could display was no less than a fourth-order cultivator, and it was still improving. Perhaps he had a chance to reach the fifth order. If that was the case, Lu Yi would be qualified to fight with his opponent, rather than being in the current situation where he was barely able to keep his life. Although He Bing felt that there was something wrong with Lu Yi, now was obviously not the time to consider such things. At this point in the battle, neither of them would back down, only one of them would die. Next to Lu Yi, Li Baxian stood up. His flesh wriggled as he urged his spirit energy to seal his wounds. The scattered flying swords flew back. He pointed his sword and shouted, "Attack!" Two figures rushed out at the same time, attacking He Bing from the left and right. Feng Yuchan also attacked at the same time, not aiming to injure or kill the enemy, but instead to distract the enemy and reduce the pressure on Li Baxian and Lu Yi. First, set a small target such as 1 second. Remember, Book House. Chapter 5:18. The battle broke out again, but this time, He Bing's expression was not as calm as before because he truly felt the improvement in Lu Ye's strength. Just as Lu Yi had thought, if the three of them could only barely keep their lives when fighting against the other party, now, they had the capital to fight against the other party, even if this capital might not last for long. Shui Ran's improvement in Lu Ye's strength did not come out of thin air, it would overdraft his own strength. For example, right now, Lu Yi was displaying the strength of a fourth-order master with a third-order cultivation. The faster and stronger his attacks were, the greater the burden on his body. Under normal circumstances, Lu Yi could fight an enemy for an hour, but in this state, he could only fight for half an hour or even less. Once the time limit was over, he would be exhausted. But in the current situation, if he didn't even have the capital to fight, what was the point of considering anything else? He Bing could feel the improvement in Lu Ye's strength, so could Li Baxian. Although he didn't know what kind of method Lu Yi had used, it was undoubtedly beneficial to his side, so he immediately changed his previous strategy. Before, he had been the main attacker with Lu Yi assisting, but now, he allowed Lu Yi to attack while he assisted with all his strength. With Feng Yuchan restraining He Bing's energy, the battle became very intense. The scene where Lu Yi was repelled in a confrontation no longer appeared, and under Lu Ye's lead, he was now able to exchange a few blows with He Bing. And as time passed, his strength grew stronger and stronger. He Bing felt very uncomfortable. Any one of these three had a much lower cultivation than him. If it was a one-on-one fight, he was confident he could end the battle within 10 breaths, and if there were only 2 of them, he would have killed them long ago. However, there were 3 opponents, 2 of whom were responsible for entangling him while the last was using a secret technique, making it difficult for him to break through. At first, these 3 were not his opponents at all, but with their cooperation, he wasn't able to kill any of them. Now, these 3 had the capital to barely fight him. This was especially true for the third-order artifact cultivator. For some reason, the more intense the battle, the stronger his strength became. Now that they had the capital to fight him, if they continued like this, wouldn't they truly be able to compete with him? He Bing was extremely vexed. If he had known this would happen, he would have gone all out and killed one of them first. It was better than being entangled like this. But now, he no longer had the chance to do so. Previously, they could only survive under his attacks. He could still exchange injuries for lives, but if he dared to do so now, he would probably have to exchange his life for theirs. No matter what, he could not make this choice. No matter what kind of secret technique the weapon cultivator had used, to be able to exert such strength with just a third-order cultivation, he must have paid a price. All Yang Kai could do now was wait until the weapon cultivator could no longer hold on, then he would naturally obtain the final victory. Thinking so, He Bing's spear danced as he switched from attacking to defending. It was a great shame for a dignified 7th order like him to be forced to make such a choice, but there was nothing he could do about it. As long as he could win, the process didn't matter. After all, these 2 were the famous Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan, 2 of Spirit Stream's 3 great tumors. He Bing, a 7th order cultivator, had made up his mind to only defend and not attack. Lu Yi and Li Baxian were completely helpless against him. All their attacks were blocked by He Bing, unable to harm him at all. Inside the stone forest, the light of spirit techniques constantly flashed as sword chi and saber chi crisscrossed. He Bing, who was firmly defending himself, waved his spear from time to block the incoming spirit techniques and saber chi attacks. Standing there, he was like an immovable block of ice, making it impossible for anyone to attack him. The bloodstained spirit tattoo was still playing a role, and Lu Ye's strength had increased again, vaguely reaching the level of a 5th order. This could be seen from the change in He Bing's demeanor as he blocked his attacks. When He Bing was blocking his attacks just now, his expression was slightly relaxed, but now, his expression was obviously much more serious, and he was using his full strength with each blow. Lu Ye's 5th order cultivation was obviously not much worse than an average 7th order cultivator. If he really had reached the 5th order at this time, even if it was a one-on-one battle, he could be evenly matched with He Bing, and perhaps even have a chance to win. However, this kind of increase in strength was brought about by the bloodstained spirit tattoo, so there was still a gap between it and a true 5th order. Moreover, Lu Yi could feel that he had reached his limit. It was impossible for the bloodstained spirit tattoo to have no limit. After all, it was just a spirit tattoo, but being able to raise his strength by 2 minor realms was enough to prove how powerful it was. Of course, this had to do with how long the battle had been going on. It had been more than a stick of incense worth of time since they entered the spirit array, giving the blood-stained spirit tattoo enough time to continue playing its role. At this moment, Lu Yi and the other two were truly qualified to compete with He Bing, but this was far from enough. He Bing rejoiced that he had switched from attacking to defending, saving him a lot of effort, otherwise he would be in an awkward situation right now. The increase in Lu Ye's strength did not bring him any panic, but rather amazement. He had never known of any method that could allow a cultivator's strength to increase so much. However, a large increase in strength also meant a large price to pay. He Bing could feel that the other party's strength had reached a limit and showed no signs of increasing any further, so as long as he continued to persevere, perhaps in the next moment, the armament cultivator would collapse. Clanging sounds rang out incessantly as Lu Yi and Li Baxian's figures crisscrossed back and forth, but they were unable to shake He Bing at all. Li Baxian knew the situation was not good. Although their situation seemed good, it was actually quite dangerous. Against He Bing, 70% of the pressure was on Lu Yi, and once Lu Yi couldn't hold on, it would be a landslide defeat. If they could end the battle quickly, they wouldn't have to worry too much, but He Bing, a 7th order, was defending himself so tightly that it was obvious he was determined to stall for time. If they couldn't defeat their opponent before Lu Ye's strength was exhausted, then today would be their burial ground. He still had one more secret sword, but it was his final trump card. Once he used it, he would be exhausted, so he couldn't use it until he had the right opportunity. During the fierce battle, Li Baxian turned his head to look at Lu Yi and saw him raise his brow. Lu Ye's expression remained the same, not showing any signs of impatience or panic. Every move he made was filled with his full strength. This calmness infected Li Baxian. If my little junior brother is capable of this, what's there to worry about? I've cultivated for so many years more than my little junior brother. How could my mentality be worse than his? If worst comes to worst, I'll die here. What harm is there in that? With this thought in mind, Lu Yi no longer had any distracting thoughts. At the same time, he didn't know if he was hallucinating or not, but his little junior brother's aura was somehow mixed with some kind of bestial aura, and his attacks were obviously wilder than before. At this time, Lu Yi had already fallen into a strange state. This feeling was indescribable, because this was the first time he had experienced it. As the battle continued, as time passed, the vitality of Lu Yi and Hu Po, who was crouching on his shoulder, continued to merge, forming a strange resonance. This resonance was not only the fusion of their vitality, but also the collision and fusion of their spirit chi and monster chi. This resonance slowly gave him the illusion that Hu Po was a part of his body, and this illusion was becoming more and more real. He immediately understood what was happening. He didn't expect to have a breakthrough at this time, but it was understandable. After all, after fighting for so long, he had accumulated enough accumulation. Moreover, he was facing an opponent who was just right for him to show off. It was unlike last time, when the opponent he met in the realm of myriad beasts was far stronger than him, giving him no room to show off. Lu Ye's eyes lit up, because he saw the hope of victory. His attacks became wilder and wilder. It had to be said that the beast seal technique he obtained in the realm of myriad beasts was a great help in this battle. Ever since he obtained this beast seal technique and formed a life essence technique with Hu Po, even if Hu Po didn't do anything during the battle, just crouching on his shoulder would provide him with great help. Just like this time, if it wasn't for Hu Po, Lu Yi estimated that he would be a lamp that had run out of oil. However, it was because of Hu Po that he was able to last longer. This was because every time he swung his blade, he could borrow strength from Hu Po and reduce the burden he had to bear. As the battle progressed, his vitality continued to merge with Hu Po, allowing the beast seal technique to slowly break out of its cocoon and become a butterfly. Looking at it this way, the blood-soaked spirit tattoos and the beast seal technique were a perfect match. The resonance between him and Hu Po became deeper and deeper, until a certain moment, this resonance reached a kind of limit. At this moment, Lu Yi clearly felt that there was an additional layer of inseparable connection between him and Hu Po. Hu Po had truly become a part of his body. Under his clothes, the tiger head beast seal on his chest exploded with light, and a mysterious suction force was emitted from it. Under the suction force, Hoopa suddenly turned into a stream of light and entered the beast seal technique. Abundant power erupted from the beast seal technique and quickly flowed to Lu Ye's limbs and bones, replenishing his body's consumption. After such a long battle, and with the support of the blood-soaked spirit tattoos, Lu Yi was already exhausted. However, after this abundant power erupted, all his exhaustion was swept away, and he was filled with vitality in an instant. Many of the injuries disappeared, and his trembling right hand calmed down. The dark red light that wrapped around Lu Ye's body turned orange. It was a mixture of blood and gold. The blood was the light of Lu Ye's vitality and spiritual power, and the gold was the light of Hoopa's demonic power. The light was so thick and solid that it formed a pair of tiger ears on either side of Lu Ye's forehead. Behind him, a tiger tail formed of spirit power and chi and blood power swayed back and forth. It was very lifelike. The strongest secret technique of the beast tamer school in the realm of beasts, beast transformation. First, set a small goal, such as 1 second. Chapter 5:19. The beast taming school was a very interesting school of thought. However, the beast taming school of the 9 states had always deviated from the norm, focusing on beasts. Cultivators were passionate about taming monster beasts and cultivating them. Most of the battles were fought with monster beasts, so most of the beast taming school's cultivators weren't very strong. This led to a phenomenon where the beast taming school cultivators of the 9 states had more than one monster beast under their command. Some had several, and some even had 10 or 20 monster beasts. In the early stages of cultivation, absolute numbers could often lead to easy victories, causing cultivators to get lost and walk further and further down the wrong path. However, too much energy was put into cultivating monster beasts, causing cultivators to neglect their own cultivation. Therefore, in the entire 9 states, the beast taming school cultivators didn't have any particularly powerful masters. In this regard, they were even inferior to Yenshur. Although Yenshur was also obsessed with external objects, at the very least, all of the external objects they created were for their own use. On the other hand, the beast taming school of the realm of beasts was completely different from that of the 9 states. In the realm of beasts, the beast taming school cultivators could only control one monster beast, and that was the life source monster beast that could form a beast seal with them. If the beast taming school of the 9 states was based on beasts, then the beast taming school was based on humans. This was the correct direction of development for the beast taming school. Beast transformation was the strongest method of beast taming. In the realm of beasts sealed world, in the black tortoise sect's underground insect nest, Fierce Nyo, who Lu Yi and the others encountered, appeared in beast form in front of everyone. Coupled with the fact that he was the core of the insect nest, his body was full of vitality. With his strength alone, he almost wiped out Lu Yi and the others. In the end, if it weren't for the Great Elder's reminder to break his beast seal and remove his beast form, they wouldn't have been able to fight. Even though they were all in the 9th order realm, Zhou Hai, Pang Dehai and Xia Qian weren't weak at all, especially Zhou Hai, who was a sword cultivator known for his killing prowess. Even so, they were still beaten to a pulp by Fierce Bull. This was the terrifying increase brought about by the beast transformation. Lu Yi had formed a beast seal with Hoopa in the realm of beasts sealed world, so he knew the mysteries of beast transformation, but he had never been able to enter this state. This was because this state could not be casually activated. It required a long time to accumulate power. The battle with He Bing had created a perfect opportunity for him. His survival instincts, his determination to kill his enemy, his cooperation with Hoopa, the fusion of their blood, energy, spirit energy, and demonic energy, and the fact that they had been fighting for a long period of time were all reasons for him to enter his beast form. Unlike Niu Meng's beast transformation, Niu Meng's beast transformation gave him the characteristics of a monster beast. It was a deeper level of beast transformation. Lu Ye's beast transformation was inferior to Niu Meng's beast transformation, so he didn't show any of the characteristics of a monster beast. He only had an orange glow covering his body, forming tiger ears and a tiger tail. This sudden turn of events not only stunned He Bing, but also Li Baxian and Feng Yuechun. It had only been 20 days since the start of the Myriad Beast realm. Although Lu Yi had sold the Beast Mark method to the Tianji Business Alliance, none of the beast tamers had been able to transform into a beast before. None of them had seen it before, so they didn't know what was going on. However, He Bing instinctively sensed something was wrong. After beast transformation, Lu Ye's already powerful aura reached a new peak. Moreover, he gave off an extremely wild feeling. He stood there, his blood and energy churning, his spirit energy boiling, like an ancient monster beast that had just broken out of its cage. Inside the cave, he had been maintaining the 9 front formations operation. The moment Lu Yi entered his beast form, a layer of ripples suddenly appeared in the 9 front formation. The figures within the formation showed signs of breaking out. This gave Yi a fright. This was a sign that the space within the 9 front formation was under too much pressure. It wasn't that the 9 front formation wasn't good enough, but that she wasn't strong enough to unleash its full power. Yi hastily increased the output of her spirit energy, smoothing out the ripples and stabilizing the 9 front formations operation. In the stone forest, Lu Yi, surrounded by spirit energy, had a strange feeling. Everything had changed. Everything around him seemed to have slowed down. He clearly saw the bewilderment and panic in He Bing's eyes. He saw the blood flowing from Li Baxian's forehead. He saw Feng Yuechun's spell slowly taking shape. It wasn't that they had slowed down, but that he had sped up. Strictly speaking, it was his thoughts that had sped up, which was why there was such a reflection. He Bing suddenly thrust his spear, sending Li Baxian flying. His spear was like a dragon as it pierced towards Lu Yi. He had a bad feeling about this. Lu Yi's strength had increased abnormally. He thought that as long as he could stabilize the situation, he would be able to win. However, with this sudden turn of events, Lu Yi's strength seemed to have increased again. He didn't dare to stay put and immediately changed his strategy, taking the initiative to attack. He didn't take Li Baxian and Feng Yuechun seriously. The difference in cultivation between them was obvious. Lu Yi was the only one who made him feel apprehensive. It's coming, hurry up and kill him. Just as He Bing thrust his spear, a voice suddenly sounded in the depths of Lu Yi's mind. This voice sounded like the voice of a 2- or 3-year-old child. Lu Yi had just raised his mountain saber to block the spear when he was startled by this voice, causing him to lose 30% of his accumulated strength. With a clang, sparks flew as Lu Yi's figure was sent flying. He Bing didn't show any mercy, his long spear trembling as it shot towards Lu Yi. Originally, when he saw Lu Yi's posture, he had thought that his strength had greatly increased, but after exchanging blows, he discovered that his opponent wasn't much better than this. He had made a mountain out of a molehill. Ding ding dang dang. Lu Yi was forced back again and again, his mountain saber slashing out to block He Bing's attacks. He appeared to be in a sorry state. As he attacked, the voice in the depths of his mind continued to resound. Left, coming from the right, Aya, this saber is really ugly, cut him, don't cut his spear. What's so good about a spear? I'm so angry. Stab him, stab his stomach, stab his chest, do you even know how to fight? Good chance, bite his neck, quick, that childish voice chattered endlessly. Every time Lu Yi attacked, it would say something. Lu Yi didn't understand what was going on at first, but when the voice asked him to bite his neck, he immediately understood. It really was this guy. Lu Yi didn't expect that after transforming, he could clearly hear Hu Po's voice. Or rather, this wasn't Hu Po's voice, but a kind of mental activity. Back then, when Hu Po transformed, he had chosen to change the size of his body. Although he couldn't transform into a human form and couldn't speak human language, he was extremely intelligent and could understand human speech. Now that Lu Yi had transformed, he could clearly sense the various activities of his soul. For a moment, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He had been with Hu Po for so long, but he never knew that it had such a personality. Shut up. Oh! Hu Po replied and didn't say anything else. At this time, a sinister smile appeared on He Bing's face. He originally thought that the other party had used some incredible secret technique to increase his strength, but after exchanging blows, he realized that was all there was to it. Under the pressure of the storm-like spear, the weapon cultivator could only parry and had no power to fight back. If it weren't for the magic cultivator and sword cultivator restraining his energy, He Bing was even confident that he could take the weapon cultivator's life within 10 spears. Just as he was thinking this, Lu Yi suddenly raised his saber and a fierce burst of spiritual power directly blocked He Bing's spear. Feeling the power from the spear, He Bing's expression changed slightly. Before he could react, Lu Yi had already pounced. In his vision, He Bing felt that it wasn't a person pouncing on him, but a fierce tiger descending from the mountain. The violent attacks were endless, and He Bing's expression changed from bewilderment to shock. In that instant, the weapon cultivator seemed to have changed into a different person, displaying even more strength than before. Saber and spear collided and blood splashed, some from Lu Yi and some from He Bing. In the previous battle, except for the scar left on He Bing's face by Li Baxian, He Bing hadn't been injured until now. Lu Ye's blood-soaked spirit tattoo gave him a faint fifth-order strength, which wasn't much worse than He Bing's. After transforming into a beast, Lu Ye's strength naturally surpassed He Bing's. Yu reading book in addition, in his beast form, Lu Ye's temperament was affected by Hu Po's bestial nature, so his saber attacks were unprecedentedly wild and violent, completely putting He Bing at a loss as to what to do. Seeing the situation change, Feng Yuchan and Li Baxian's eyes lit up and they hurriedly used their secret techniques and flying swords to support Lu Yi. This time, He Bing's situation became even more awkward. Before, it was him who was pressuring Lu Yi step by step, but now the situation was completely reversed as he was forced back by Lu Ye's trio. Realizing the situation wasn't looking good, He Bing hurriedly said, "Do we have to fight to the death? How about we just stop here?" Lu Yi hadn't expected that at the end of this battle, he would be the one to ask for peace. Originally, he thought he was about to eat a piece of fat meat, but now, these 3 pieces of fat meat actually threatened his life. At this point, he no longer dared to underestimate Lu Yi and the others. Hearing He Bing's words, Lu Yi didn't say a word. Since they had already fought to this point, it was only natural that they had to fight to the death. Without mentioning anything else, he definitely wouldn't be able to maintain his beast form for long. He was relying on his beast form and his blood-soaked spirit tattoo to fight against He Bing, but if he really called a truce, once the blood-soaked spirit tattoo was removed, he would regain his third-order strength. At that time, if He Bing went back on his word, how could he blame him? Moreover, he didn't want to expose the secret of the transmission array, and He Bing had recognized Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan letting him live would only increase the risk to his side. So, no matter what, He Bing had to die. Chapter 520. In the stone forest, saber light flashed constantly. In his beast form, Lu Ye's every slash had reached a new peak in both speed and power. He Bing parried with his spear, but the web between his thumb and forefinger began to crack. His spirit energy was surging, and his situation was getting worse. Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan supported Lu Yi from the side, restraining He Bing's energy. Finally, Lu Yi found a good opportunity to stab his saber straight at He Bing's chest. Panic flashed in He Bing's eyes. At this moment, his body leaned back, and his chest was wide open. Although he wanted to block the incoming saber, it was too late. With Lu Ye's current strength, his spirit body protection couldn't block this saber at all. In other words, if he was really stabbed, it would definitely be a penetrating result. It was very likely that he would lose his life under this saber. At this critical moment, He Bing suddenly pushed his spirit energy, and a bright triangular barrier appeared in front of him. The mountain coiling saber was blocked by the barrier and couldn't move an inch. He Bing's face was full of fear. At that moment, he really felt the aura of death. Lu Yi raised his eyebrows and looked at the flowing lines on the barrier that suddenly appeared. He recognized them at a glance. They were spirit runes. The enemy in front of me is a battle inscription master? No. If he really is a battle inscription master, there's no reason why he didn't activate his spirit runes in the battle just now. Since he isn't a battle inscription master, he must have spirit runes on his body. Not every cultivator had the ability to inscribe spirit patterns. After all, there were not many inscription masters who could inscribe spirit patterns on cultivators. Moreover, the materials needed to inscribe spirit patterns were also extremely expensive. Generally speaking, with the foundation of a Cloud River tier cultivator's body, they would only be able to bear one spirit pattern. Any more and they would not be able to bear it. He Bing had spirit runes on his chest. At this moment, he pushed his spirit energy to stimulate the power of the spirit runes, which turned into a barrier and blocked Lu Ye's fatal blow. This could be said to be He Bing's trump card. He wouldn't use it unless he had no other choice. It had always been Lu Yi who activated his spirit runes to block others' attacks. This time, his attack was blocked by someone else's spirit runes, and he missed a good opportunity to kill his enemy. Lu Ye's expression remained unchanged as he sheathed his saber and slashed again. However, the defensive spirit rune was activated by a 7th order cultivator, and his spirit chi was constantly being poured into it, making it extremely sturdy. If he wanted to break through these runes, he would need to have a sufficiently violent attack. He retreated and raised his long saber horizontally. Fierce chi and blood converged on his right arm, and his muscles bulged slightly. But before Lu Yi could attack, Li Baxian had already made his move. The flying swords scattered in the surroundings suddenly gathered into the sword in his hand. Li Baxian held his sword in front of him with a solemn expression. In an instant, a sharp killing intent swept out in all directions. Li Baxian seemed to have turned into an unsheathed sword. Ever since Lu Yi had transformed into a beast, he had been watching from the side. He did not seek to injure or kill the enemy. His main goal was to tie down the enemy's energy. At this moment, seeing that He Bing had activated the defensive spirit rune, he no longer held back. Li Baxian's entire body was integrated into the sword light. Like a flash of lightning, he appeared in front of He Bing and pointed his sword at the defensive rune. It was a silent collision, but it was accompanied by a burst of strength. With a loud crash, the impregnable defensive spirit rune shattered with a loud bang. This was the terrifying power of a sword cultivator. With a cultivation weaker than He Bing's 3rd order, Li Baxian had broken through his strongest defense. Under this sword strike, Li Baxian's face turned as pale as paper. He Bing swept out his spear and sent him flying. At this moment, taking advantage of the opportunity created by Li Baxian, Lu Ye's long saber slashed down. The flash. He Bing's eyes were filled with panic as he pushed his spirit energy again, wanting to activate the defensive rune again, but he was still a step too slow. As his long saber fell, the phantom of a fierce tiger flashed behind Lu Yi, and a tiger's roar seemed to ring out. The fierce battlefield suddenly fell silent. Lu Yi maintained the posture of his long saber and did not move for a long time. On the mountain-coiling saber, red blood gathered and dripped down. Asterisk drip. Asterisk, a faint sound broke the silence. Feng Yuchan pursed her red lips as she stared at He Bing, preparing to cast a spirit art. Just 10 meters in front of Lu Yi, He Bing froze in place, the long spear in his hands still in the posture of thrusting out, but the defensive spirit rune on his chest flashed and dissipated silently. His eyes moved slightly and he looked at Lu Yi in front of him. His face twitched and then he fell on his back. The moment he landed, his head separated from his body, his eyes wide open, filled with unwillingness and disbelief. Only now did Feng Yuchan breathe a long sigh of relief, withdraw her spirit energy, and rush over to Li Baxian to check his condition. Lu Yi also sat down on the ground, sprawled out on all fours, looking up at the void above his head. His vision blurred and he appeared in the underground cave again. He had noticed that the battle was over and had let them out. Lu Yi, are you okay? Yi stepped forward and looked at Lu Yi, who looked like he was drenched in blood, her voice filled with tears. I'm fine. Where's 4th senior brother? Li Baxian's extremely weak voice came from the side, exhausted. His injuries were a bit better than Lu Ye's, but the last secret sword had exhausted all his strength. Hearing Li Baxian's voice, Lu Yi felt relieved. Relaxing his mind, a bloody light sprang out from his chest, revealing Hu Po's figure. However, Hu Po was clearly a bit weak at the moment, and it seemed that the beast form had also consumed a lot of his energy. The moment Lu Yi deactivated his beast form, he felt an endless sense of weariness engulfing him. It was as if all of his essence, energy, and spirit had been sucked out of him. This was not just the aftereffects of the beast form, but also the effects of the bloodstains. With the two added together, he simply could not bear it. He only had time to say one sentence, "I'm going to sleep." His consciousness fell directly into darkness. Yi was startled and hurriedly checked, and after confirming that Lu Ye's life was not in danger, she breathed a sigh of relief. Li Baxian also fell asleep immediately after, and even Hoopa curled up beside Lu Yi, leaving Feng Yuchan and Yi to look after him. After feeding Lu Yi a healing pill and carefully bandaging his wounds, Yi said, "Senior Sister Feng, I'll go out and stand guard, please take care of things here." Feng Yuchan nodded, "Okay." Having just experienced a great battle, Lu Yi and Li Baxian were both unconscious, so if someone were to come in at this time, the situation would not be good. Yi could escape through the ground, and when she was with Lu Yi, she was also responsible for keeping watch, so it was best for her to monitor the situation. The moment Lu Yi killed He Bing, on the bounty list hanging high in the sky, the number of hunting points behind his name suddenly increased by 250 points, reaching 3,990 points in one fell swoop, only 10 points short of 4,000. This sudden change naturally attracted the attention of many people. Recently, the hunting points behind Lu Ye's name had often increased by hundreds or even hundreds of points, and when he killed a 6th Order Master, it had increased by 180 points, which naturally aroused many people's suspicions. What was certain was that the cultivation of Lu Yi, who was ranked first, was not too high, because only when he killed an enemy above his realm would his hunting points increase so much. Now that his hunting points had increased by 250 points, it really made people curious as to what kind of master he had killed. One had to know that a 9th Order Cloud River realm only represented a base number of 60 points, so 250 points was 4 times that. 500 kilometers away from the underground cave where Lu Yi and the others were, Wei Kei frowned as he stared at the bounty list with a gloomy expression. He knew that Lu Yi was only a 3rd Order cultivator, so an increase of 250 hunting points undoubtedly meant that he had killed a 7th Order Master. A 3rd Order Master killing a 7th Order Master was simply unimaginable, and no one would believe it, even if he had Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan as helpers. But the facts were right in front of him. What made him feel gloomy was not the increase in Lu Ye's hunting points. He had no intention of competing for a spot on the bounty list, so no matter how many Lu Ye's hunting points increased, it had nothing to do with him. His biggest goal was always Lu Yi. The reason why he felt gloomy was because he was sure that he had been chasing in the wrong direction. Several 3rd Order Masters killing a 7th Order Master, the battle must have been fierce, so it was impossible to hide, but Wei Kei had not found any trace of Lu Yi and the others. Those guys? Where did they run off to? What method did they use to escape? Wei Kei was completely confused. As time passed, the rankings on the bounty list continued to change, especially between the 2nd and 10th places. The gap between them was very small, so it was possible that a random battle could cause a person's ranking to rise several places. Reading a book. What made them even happier though was that Lu Ye's hunting points had stopped moving. Previously, although Lu Ye's hunting points would not change for a long time, on the whole, they would increase almost every day, each time by a few hundred points. But in the past few days, Lu Ye's hunting points had completely stopped at 3,990. Originally, Lu Yi was far in the lead, leaving everyone behind him in despair, because with a gap of over 1,000 hunting points, it was very difficult to catch up. But now, they saw an opportunity again, so they worked even harder to search for traces of the enemy. After 3 days, Tan Sheng, who was ranked 2nd, finally overtook Lu Yi and occupied the 1st place on the bounty list. If it weren't for Lu Ye's name still hanging on the bounty list, Tan Sheng would have almost suspected that this person was dead, but now that there had been no movement for 3 days, he must have been seriously injured and was most likely recuperating. It had to be said that Tan Sheng's guess was correct. Over the past 3 days, Lu Yi had indeed been recuperating, and his injuries were not too serious. For him, recuperating for a day or two wouldn't have much impact on his body. The key was the double sequelae of transforming into a beast and staining his spirit tattoo, which made his body feel weak. The last time he had felt this weak was after he had activated his Fire Phoenix spirit tattoo at the Spirit Stream battlefield, but at that time, Hua Ci had been by his side and had taken good care of him, allowing him to quickly recover. Chapter 521. After 3 days of recuperation, Lu Yi had finally recovered, and Li Baxian had also almost fully recovered. Almost 10 days had passed since the hunting ground opened, and no one knew when it would close. Generally speaking, the hunting ground would remain open for half a month to a month each time, and no one knew how long it would last because no one knew when the hunting ground would suddenly close. When the hunting ground closed, the hunting list would be settled, and all kinds of rewards would be given out by the Heaven's Secrets. According to the observation of Yi, who was standing guard outside, Lu Ye's ranking on the hunting list had fallen to 4th place. This was normal. Although he had left the people behind him far behind, he had not made any progress for 3 full days. Those masters were not to be trifled with, so they would naturally catch up and overtake him. If it was before, he would have overtaken them, but Lu Yi, Li Baxian, and Feng Yuchan had been working hard for so long, so it would be a pity if they were overtaken at this time. Now that his body had recovered, it was natural for him to reclaim 1st place on the hunting list. But before that, he still needed to make some preparations. Without mentioning anything else, he still needed to arrange some transmission arrays. Right now, the transmission array in his hiding place was not connected to any other transmission points, so once he was blocked here, he would end up in the same situation as before. In this regard, Lu Yi was helpless. The locations he chose to set up teleportation arrays were usually very remote. They were either inside caves or underground caverns. However, if he could find these places, there was a chance that others could find them as well. Once someone activated the explosion arrays he left behind, all of his arrangements would be destroyed. He could only arrange as many as possible so that even if one of the transmission arrays was destroyed, there would be other backup options. After making the necessary preparations, Lu Yi quietly walked out of the underground cavern. It should be daytime at this moment, but under the blood-red sky, the entire hunting ground presented a gloomy and treacherous atmosphere. Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan were still underground, not following him. Lu Yi was going to arrange a transmission array, so it was naturally more convenient for him to do it alone. Without mentioning anything else, he had methods to conceal himself, so as long as he was careful enough, even 8th or 9th order masters would not be able to detect him. Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan did not have such ability. After traveling for 200 li, Zhang Xian followed his memory and arrived at a cave. This was originally the location where he had set up the teleportation array. However, at this moment, there were a lot of rocks piled up in the cave. There were also traces of the explosion of spiritual energy. There was even some dried blood on the ground. It was obvious that the explosion array had been activated. Someone was injured here, so the person who broke in and activated the spirit array shouldn't have a high cultivation. If it was really an 8th or 9th order cultivator, they shouldn't have been injured. After inspecting the cave, Lu Yi found that it was quite sturdy. He began to clean up the rubble at the bottom of the cave before rearranging the array formation. Although this place had already been discovered by others, they had not gained anything and had even been tricked by the formation left behind by Lu Yi, so it was unlikely that they would return to investigate. Less than an hour later, everything was set up. Lu Yi stood on the teleportation array and tested it. After confirming that this teleportation array was not only connected to Li Baxian's location, but also to another location, he called it a day. Initially, he had set up 12 spirit arrays, but after so many days, he did not know how many spirit arrays were left. Because many of the spirit arrays were gradually connected, Lu Yi could only check the situation in 2 or 3 other locations at most through a certain spirit array. After setting up a new spirit array, Lu Yi walked out of the cave again, concealed himself, and walked 200 kilometers in another direction. Together with Yi, he found a suitable location and arranged another spirit array. This time, The spirit array he set up was connected to Li Baxian's location and the one he had just set up. This way, no matter which spirit array they were on, they would have 2 escape routes. Even if one of them was destroyed, they would not be left with no way out. After suffering such a loss before, Lu Yi was naturally more careful. He did not want to fight against a master above the 7th order again. Although they had won the battle with He Bing in the end, that battle had been too difficult. Even if they managed to kill He Bing, they had wasted a full 3 days, so the gains did not make up for the losses. For Lu Yi, killing 4th or 5th order enemies was the most cost-effective. Killing them was easy and gave him a lot of hunting points. After arranging 2 spirit arrays in a row, Lu Yi contacted Li Baxian to confirm the situation. A moment later, Lu Yi stood on the spirit array and activated it, his figure quickly disappearing. Returning to the previous underground cave, Lu Yi met up with Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan and the 3 of them headed out. After traveling for more than 10 miles, Lu Yi began to arrange a spirit array as usual, concealing Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan's aura. Then he found a suitable place to arrange a trapping array, so as to avoid encountering an invincible expert. After everything was ready, Lu Yi concealed himself and quietly lay dormant. While waiting, Lu Yi looked up at the hunter's list. His ranking had fallen again and was now in 7th place. The reward for 7th place was only 3 golden spirit lots, a huge gap from 1st place. Now, the one who occupied 1st place was still that guy named Tan Sheng. Lu Yi did not know what kind of dog shit luck he had, but his hunting points were now nearly 300 higher than the 2nd place. One had to know that the gap between these people was not very big before. A gap of 300 hunting points was generally difficult to catch up. If Lu Yi had not rested for 3 days, the gap of 1,000 hunting points higher than the 2nd place would have been enough to make the people behind him completely despair. 3 hours later, a group of cultivators passed by nearby. Judging from their cautious expressions, their cultivation was not very high. Although they were flying on their flying artifacts, they were less than 10 meters above the ground. This way, if they encountered any danger, they could quickly land on the ground and find a way to hide. As usual, Li Baxian launched a sneak attack to determine the other party's camp and cultivation, followed by Feng Yuchan's bombardment and Lu Ye's ambush. The battle ended in less than 30 breaths of time. Quickly cleaning up the battlefield, Lu Yi collected the array flags and array bases and retreated. Although the battle went smoothly, it was still necessary to maintain sufficient vigilance. In the hunting ground, no one knew when they would provoke a master at the 8th or 9th order, so the 3 of them adhered to their previous principle of never fighting in the same place twice. Returning to the underground cave, Lu Yi was responsible for activating the seal on the storage bag. The 3 of them divided the spoils equally. Then, under Lu Ye's command, the 3 of them were teleported to another transmission array. After a little rest, they continued to hunt. Just like before, Lu Yi maintained a few hundred hunting points every day. By the 13th day of the hunting grounds opening, his hunting points had reached 5,440 hunting points. His ranking rose by 1 place, to 6th place. However, at this rate, it was impossible for Lu Yi to claim 1st place on the hunting list, because the gap between him and Tan Sheng was not small. Tan Sheng was a 9th order cultivator, so he could act unscrupulously in the hunting ground. As long as he didn't encounter a 9th order Grand Heaven Alliance master, he could be said to be invincible, unlike Lu Ye's group, who had to act stealthily for fear of being discovered by other masters. But this could not be helped. After all, their cultivation was still too low, which was an absolute shortcoming. In fact, the reward for 6th place was not bad. Although it was only 1 place higher than 7th place, the reward was 5 golden spirit sticks. At the bottom of the cave where they were hiding on the transmission array, Lu Yi activated the seal on the storage bag and divided the storage bags into 3, 1 for each of them. The distribution of the spoils had always been like this. As for what good things could be found in each storage bag, it all depended on luck. Most of them did not have anything good. Some people had spirit sticks in their storage bags, but the quality was not high. These spirit sticks should have been obtained from the hunting ground and had not been used yet, so Lu Ye's group had benefited. Opening one storage bag after another, Lu Yi sorted out the useful things. Not long after, Lu Yi took out a palm-sized token from the last storage pouch. Engraved on this token was a bell-shaped pattern, and on both sides of the pattern were a few strokes, indicating that the bell was blooming, making anyone who saw it want to laugh. Lu Yi had never seen this kind of token before and did not know what it was used for. He thought it was an identity token from the sect behind the dead man, but just as he was about to throw it away, Li Baxian suddenly looked up. "Junior brother, let me take a look at this token." Lu Yi heard this and handed the token to Li Baxian. Li Baxian took it and looked it over, even pinching it with his hand, then handed it back to Feng Yuechan with uncertainty. "Take a look." Feng Yuechan carefully looked at it, then seemed to think of something and her expression became surprised. "Is it that thing?" Li Baxian asked. "It seems to be. I saw some records in a book before. The pattern and size are all the same. So this thing can also appear in the hunting ground. It seems it was a scattered opportunity. It should be. I wonder who was so lucky. Even if they were lucky, they would be dead already." The conversation between the two aroused Lu Ye's curiosity. After they finished talking, Lu Yi asked, "Senior brother, what is this token?" Listening to Li Baxian and Feng Yuechan's tone, this thing didn't seem to be an identity token, but something he had never heard of before. "This is good stuff." Li Baxian returned the token to Lu Yi. "It should be a golden body token." Golden body token? Yes, Junior brother has heard of the golden body talisman, right? The golden body token's function is similar to the golden body talisman. It can protect a person completely, but the power of the golden body talisman is related to the quality of the talisman, but this golden body token is a gift from the heavens. In other words, if you use this golden body token, you will have a layer of protection from the heavens. It is unbreakable and extremely sturdy, and the duration is also incomparable to the golden body talisman. It can last for at least several hours. Chapter 522. The protection bestowed by Heaven's secret can last for several hours? Lu Yi was speechless. As for how long it can last, I don't know. I've only heard of it before, but this is the first time I've seen it. Feng Yuechan also spoke. "This is a gift from Heaven's secret. I've only heard that someone obtained the golden body token in the sealed world, but I didn't know it would appear in the hunting ground. However, since it's a gift from Heaven's secret, there are all kinds of opportunities scattered in the hunting ground, so it's possible for it to appear. Someone must have obtained this golden body token but didn't have time to use it, so it ended up benefiting us." Hearing what she said, Lu Yi remembered a detail. When they ambushed the group of myriad demon ridge cultivators just now, one of them did want to take something out of his storage bag, but unfortunately, before he could do so, he was killed by Lu Yi, who was lurking beside him. Now, it seemed that that person wanted to take out the golden body token from his storage bag. Otherwise, why would he reach into his storage bag in such a life or death situation? "Little junior brother, this thing is rare. Keep it carefully, it can save your life at a critical moment," Li Baxian exhorted. A golden body token was an immortal barrier. After all, it was a protection bestowed by heaven, so it couldn't be broken through by ordinary means. After a few days of bumpy experiences, encountering a 9th Order Master and fighting a 7th Order Master, Li Baxian thought that something had happened to his little junior brother's luck. But now, it seemed that his little junior brother's luck was still there. He even obtained a rare thing like the golden body token. "How do I use this thing?" Lu Yi asked. Li Baxian said, "Just pour your spirit energy into it." "That's simple." Lu Yi nodded and carefully put away the golden body token. This kind of life-saving thing was indeed more precious than any treasure. Although many treasures were good, he only had one life in the end. After a little rest, he continued to move. 2 days later, Lu Yi hid his figure and lurked in the dark. Since obtaining the golden body command token, Lu Ye's luck had been very good. His harvest in the past 2 days had been quite good. Now, Lu Ye's ranking on the hunting list had risen to 3rd place, only 500 hunting points away from Tan Xing. At this rate, he should be able to overtake Tan Xing in a few days. Of course, it had already been half a month since the hunting ground opened, and it was still unknown if they could return to the first place before the hunting ground closed. They had waited there for about 6 hours. During this time, a group of cultivators passed by. However, after Li Baxin launched a sneak attack and confirmed that they were from the Grand Heaven Alliance, they could only give up. Just as he was bored to death, a fierce spiritual energy fluctuation suddenly came from several kilometers away. Lu Yi looked up in the direction of the spiritual energy fluctuation and saw a dazzling beam of light. This was the commotion caused by the explosion of the special golden spiritual lot. Lu Yi had once been bestowed such a golden spiritual stick by Heaven's Secret, and it had exploded in his hands no less than 4 times, so he was naturally familiar with this kind of activity. This was the first time he had seen the spirit lot in someone else's hand erupt, and the momentum was indeed astonishing. Every day, someone would be selected by Heaven's Secret and bestowed with a spiritual stick. However, the hunting ground was very large, and Lu Ye's group was mostly waiting for rabbits, so the range of their activities was not very large. When the spiritual sticks exploded before, they were far away from them, so they could not detect them. However, they did not expect to be so close this time. Lu Ye's mind turned, but he soon calmed down. He did not intend to get involved in this kind of excitement. Although he had obtained the benefits of the special golden spiritual lot, now that the spiritual lot had exploded, the nearby cultivators would definitely rush over. There would definitely be many masters that they could not defeat. A 7th order He Bing had forced them to rest for 3 days. If they really provoked a stronger master, it would be impossible to clean up the mess. The Golden Body Command token could only protect one person. It could even be said that if not for the fear of exposing his whereabouts, Lu Yi would have wanted to leave this place. A distance of a few kilometers was too close for a Cloud River Realm cultivator, but it was not a good idea to act rashly, so it was better to continue hiding. Just as he was thinking this, a figure suddenly appeared in his field of vision. This person looked nervous, as if he was fleeing. He was only 7 or 8 meters away from the ground, and judging from the spiritual energy fluctuations on his body, this person was a 6th order cultivator. As this person fled, he was cursing and swearing, and his expression looked extremely angry. Lu Ye's heart moved as he vaguely guessed. Just as he was about to send a message to Li Baxin, a sword light flashed and Li Baxin's figure appeared, directly attacking the 6th order cultivator. This person was already nervous, so when he was suddenly attacked, his expression changed drastically as he hurriedly blocked. In the hasty exchange, the battlefield marks on the back of Li Baxin and the attacker's hands blossomed with 2 colored lights. Perceiving that Li Baxin was a 4th order cultivator, this person was furious. A 4th order cultivator dares to snatch treasures? Courting death. Saying so, he raised his hand and pointed, sending streams of light towards Li Baxin. The latter used his flying sword to block, and for a moment, clanging sounds could be heard. While he was fighting with Li Baxin, Feng Yuchan appeared from the side and attacked him with a spirit technique. Under the pincer attack, this person was in an extremely difficult position. Although there was only a single realm between the 7th order and the 6th order, the difference in strength was huge. Moreover, this person's foundation was obviously not as good as He Bing's. He Bing had broken through to the Cloud River realm with 360 apertures, but this person did not break through at the peak of the Spirit Stream realm. When he was at the Spirit Stream realm, he had only opened 298 apertures. Such a 6th order cultivator was naturally in a tight spot under the joint attack of Li Baxin and Feng Yuchan. Not to mention the 2 of them working together, even one of them alone had the capital to fight him. Realizing that Li Baxin and Feng Yuchan were not to be trifled with, this person's expression turned ugly. He only felt that he was really unlucky. He was actually stopped when he was fleeing, and judging from the other party's posture, it was obvious that they had been waiting here for a long time. This was not an ambush for him. They were just here to hunt, but he had unexpectedly stepped into their trap. If it were not for the fact that he could not give it away after it was bestowed, he would have offered it up at this moment in order to save his life. However, he had already tried to throw it away before, but it was impossible to do so. This was the most despairing thing. He had also thought of finding a master from 10,000 Demons Ridge to protect him, but those masters were currently competing for the hunter list rankings. Who would have the time to protect him? Moreover, time was running out, and he could not contact a decent master. He could only blame the heavens for being blind. There were so many people in the hunting ground, so why did they choose him? He was already in a bad situation, and with his thoughts running wild, the situation was becoming more and more unfavorable for him. Suddenly, a sharp murderous intent attacked him from behind, followed by intense pain that swept through his body. Caught off guard, this person was sent flying and landed awkwardly. Lu Ye's figure appeared where this person was originally standing, the mountain-coiling saber wrapped in flames. With his saber successful, Lu Yi rushed forward while Li Baxian's flying sword and Feng Yuchan's spirit technique attacked from the side. This person hurriedly got up and blocked the flying sword in a fluster, but he was still hit by the spirit technique and staggered. Lu Yi had already arrived in front of him and slashed down with his mountain-coiling saber. This person was unable to resist at all. Blood splashed as this person's body fell to the ground. Lu Yi was somewhat surprised. This sixth order was far weaker than he had imagined. Lu Yi, Li Baxian, and Feng Yuchan had joined forces to kill 2 or 3 sixth order masters before, but none of them were as weak as this person. Obviously, this person's foundation was very weak and he had not opened many spirit apertures when he was in the spirit stream realm. Lu Yi hurriedly packed up the spoils of war and put away the person's storage pouch and spirit artifact. Then he stretched out his hand and searched the person's bosom. Sure enough, he took out a golden spirit stick, and the spirit stick was coiled with a light green glow. "Let's go!" Lu Yi called out. Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan hurriedly followed, not even having time to collect the scattered array flags and array bases. After running for less than 1,000 feet, a stream of light came from the front. In the blink of an eye, it arrived before them and revealed a person's figure. Obviously, this person had sensed the battle here and came to investigate. Lu Yi and the other 2 were on high alert. Fortunately, the battlefield mark on the back of each other's hands did not light up. This person was from Grand Heaven Alliance. Sensing Lu Yi and the other 2's cultivation, this person waved his hand and motioned for them to leave quickly. Lu Yi cupped his fists and quickly left with Li Baxian and Feng Yuchan. After a while, the sound of an intense battle came from behind. It should be the master from Grand Heaven Alliance encountering the cultivators from Myriad Demon Ridge. Such a battle would undoubtedly attract the attention of many cultivators. In this way, the bigger the commotion, the safer Lu Yi and the others would be. After a cup of tea's worth of time, Lu Yi and the other 2 rushed into the cave one after another. Lu Yi immediately activated the concealment array in the cave to conceal their auras and waited on the transmission array. This time they were lucky. On the way back, they did not meet anyone except for a Grand Heaven Alliance cultivator. Therefore, they were not exposed for the time being and were not in a hurry to teleport away. It would not be too late to wait for others to find this place and read a book before teleporting. Time passed. From time to time, the sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. There were also some sounds of fierce battle coming intermittently from afar. Obviously, these were the cultivators from the 2 factions who were attracted by the previous phenomenon. Now, both sides did not know who had the golden spiritual lot. The main reason was that Lu Yi and the others were lucky and moved quickly. As soon as the phenomenon appeared, the person with the golden spiritual lot had already entered their ambush. Once that person died, the golden spiritual lot's whereabouts were unknown. 2 hours passed, 4 hours passed, the commotion outside gradually calmed down. Lu Yi and the others who had been tense all this time also relaxed. Only now did they have the mood to check their spoils of war. There were a few storage pouches. They opened them one by one but did not find anything valuable. The only valuable thing was the golden spiritual lot that Lu Yi found in that person's chest. There was no doubt that this was a special spiritual lot bestowed by Heaven's Secret. The light blue light was the best indication. Lu Yi had never thought that he would actually be able to obtain such a spirit lot. However, with his previous experience, he was still very confident in keeping this spirit lot. As long as his luck wasn't too bad, This spirit lot basically wouldn't be taken away by others. Heaven's secret bestowing such a spiritual lot was not a good thing for ordinary cultivators. This thing could not be used before the time limit was up. It could not be put into storage pouches or even thrown away. It could only be carried around. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.